CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Yes, it will. It'll be live right here on Talking Left. Thank you guys everywhere for joining us, wherever you may be listening. Of course, our great home sweet home at radioornot.com and all of our affiliates, SoFlo Radio, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, or maybe you're checking out the podcast over on iTunes or talkingleft.com. We've got a great show in store for you tonight on this August 1st start of Well Women's Health Care in the Obama Affordable Care Act. Big news today, and very excited about it personally, so I hope you guys are as well. We have three great guests in store for you. First coming up will be Susie Samson in the bottom of the hour. She is of the Tea Party Report, and if you haven't checked out her videos and YouTube channel, you definitely need to go over there and have a few laughs. She'll be joining us at the bottom of the hour to talk to us about her interview with Cenk Uygur and her polling on the streets of Hollywood, California, of Obama versus Romney. Great stuff, funny stuff, and two great guests coming up after her, Nicole Belle of Crooks and Liars and David Shuster of Take Action News. So you may want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the show tonight. Lots of great stuff coming up. As I mentioned, August 1st, today, the new changes in the Affordable Care Act make some really important progress in the area of women's health. And for me personally, this is very big news. So I'm very happy to be covering it. As of today, the Affordable Care Act makes available to women many preventative health products without cost sharing, meaning without copays or coinsurance, if you're familiar with that term. Basically, when you have a plan that says the insurance company will pay 80% and you have to pick up the 20%. So without either of those, unacceptable costs, women are now able to access very important medical screening that is not only life-saving, but often cost-saving. Because, let's face it, if you can detect cancer or a STD or many diseases as they're early onset, treating them is much more affordable than treating them in the later stages. So as of today, August 1st, thanks to Obamacare, women can now get for free without cost saving, Well Women's visits, screening for gestational diabetes, which is very important to pregnant women, screening for HPV, which right now mostly focuses on teenagers and school age, prepubescent and pubescent teenage girls and boys. Now it's available for women 30 years and older, which is a big deal because, they could be carrying something like that and not knowing it. Of course, counseling for sexually transmitted diseases and infections to help women deal with not just the physical aspects, but the emotional and mental aspects as well. HIV screening and counseling, FDA-approved contraception, birth control. I don't know how many men out there know this, but in addition to all of the religious aspects and religious blockade to women getting access to birth control, it can be very expensive too, especially if you maybe can't take the first one the doctor prescribes to you and you have to try a few different ones. Some of them can be $40, $80, $100 a month just for women to continue to use birth control. Breastfeeding support, supplies, and counseling. And again, I doubt many of you men out there know, but that can also be very, very expensive. A breast pump, for example, often ranges about $300. So in order to breastfeed your child, which so many doctors and medical institutions say, is the best way to give them a good start, now they'll be able to afford to do so. And very important, domestic violence screening and counseling to help women deal with the issue of domestic violence and perhaps get out of some of those bad relationships. So, Shane, I know this is a a womanly topic, but
It's not. I disagree that it's a womanly topic.
I'm glad you feel that way.
And not to sound like some kind of enlightened man, but I think when you extend rights and benefits to anyone, you're doing that for the benefit of all, and I really think that's important. And I like your T-shirt today. That's spectacular. Well picked today. Well picked.
Yes, I was actually going back and forth between the Hands Across the Sand T-shirt and this T-shirt because many people may not be aware, but this weekend is the Hands Across the Sand event for 2012. So
I didn't know that.
This Saturday coming up is Hands Across the Sand event all over the country. If you have time, go to your local body of water. It's not just oceans. And hopefully you can gather with some great like-minded
Bathtubs
people.
Do not count.
Bathtubs no. Hey, you could have some hands across the hot tub later after the Hands Across the Sand event. Why not?
Oh dear.
They have drinking liberally. Why not? Hands across the hot tub.
Okay.
I'm all for it. But yeah, back to the women's health care. There's a lot more services available. There's been tremendous progress because of the Affordable Care Act and changes being made over the months since it's been enacted. Obviously, many of us out there would love for it to be universal health care and love to see it go even further. But right now I'm going to celebrate the victory we've achieved today, which is that women in this country will now have access to free preventative services that could not only save their lives, but could really change the whole course of women's medical health. And for me personally, it's very important.
But aren't you going to now take 17 contraceptive pills today and have sex with 17 different people? I mean, isn't that what birth control is according to people like Al Rushbo?
Oh, because Rush is just an expert on women's issues.
Speaking of not enlightened,
yeah, exactly.
I didn't have the opportunity today, nor do I any day, to listen to him. But I wonder if his head exploded today because now it's the end of the world.
Well, I didn't listen to him today, but I did pull some clips from yesterday, and I'm not going to play them now. We'll save them for our Media Matters mashup segment. But he had to take a few stabs at women in conjunction with this celebratory news. I'm not surprised by that. I don't think anybody else listening is
there
either.
Seemed to be some people on the right who really didn't get the point. In terms of what their actions were yesterday and today.
Yeah, many of them in D.C., which we'll be talking about later as the House vote.
Am I leading you to things too quickly here?
No,
on the show?
That's quite all right. We can jump around a little bit. I'm sure most people probably watched Maddow last night, and I do have to feel like she stole my thunder a little bit because I had my show prep done. I had it done,
Sure you did.
and I had the whole show prepared, and I sat down to watch Maddow, and I went, damn, she stole my thunder.
Well, that's why they prep their shows like a couple hours before the show.
Yeah.
But also that's she did a great job on it.
She did much better than I could imagine.
Well, we'll have our own perspective on it, and at the same time, great minds. That tip of the hat to you.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things she covered that because I was home watching C-SPAN all day yesterday, I had the opportunity.
Liberal slacker.
I know. I had the opportunity to hear this as it was first said on the House floor, where Senator Tom Harkin, a Democrat of Iowa, shared a very personal story about why these changes in the Affordable Care Act, in Obamacare, are so important to him.
Wasn't this at a press conference after, not on the floor? If I'm thinking of the right clip where he's talking about his sisters?
It could have been at a press conference. It was all on C-SPAN. It kind of blends.
The sets don't change that much.
No, they don't change, especially when you're walking around the house and doing other things while listening. But this is kind of a long clip. I did not cut it, and I gave him the full, a chance to share this full story because I thought it was so important. And I'll explain why after we listen to it. This is Senator Tom Harkin, again, Democrat of Iowa, sharing some very personal moments about why this is important to him.
I lost both my sisters to breast cancer, my only two sisters, at a fairly young age. When my older sister, Marianne, died and we went to her funeral, her younger sister, Sylvia, was there and had no idea that she also had breast cancer. Within 2 years, she was dead also. And they left young families. They lived in rural areas, small towns, they didn't have any money. They didn't really have health care coverage. For them to go to get a checkup would have cost money. Money that they could ill afford at that time. They had a number of kids. And as I said, they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have health care benefits. I often think, what would have been different if they could have had this available to them? Early checkups, early screenings. But for both of them, it was way too late by the time they discovered it. So this has a very personal, poignant meaning to me. And I just hope that women in this country now will take advantage of this and will now go and get those annual screenings and get those checkups. Early detection we know works, and millions of lives can be saved. And as Senator Mikulski said, families will not have to lose a parent or a sister because of breast cancer or cervical cancer, all the others. So when I hear Republicans say, and they still say, that they want to repeal this, and they want to take this away from women, I stand with Senator Mikulski. Not as long as we're here.
That's right. And Senator Mikulski, Barbara Mikulski of Maryland, our senator that I'm very happy to announce.
That's right. Marylanders.
She was awesome in saying that, she's not going to let the Republicans repeal this so long as she's here. But Tom Harkin shared that story, and I have to admit that while listening to it the first time and the second time, I got a little teary-eyed. As most people probably don't know who listen to this show, my sister was recently diagnosed with breast cancer. And these type of services being available to her are the reason why she was able to discover it. I could only wish that these services were free and that she could have had access to them sooner and more often so that her situation could have been discovered even sooner, so that she would have had even more of a chance to fight off what she's fighting right now. And it's very important to me personally that these services are now available to women, that women like her will be able to discover such important news before it's quote-unquote too late. There's lots more information about the services that are available at healthcare.gov.
And that's really important because, there's the political messaging, and we've been complaining for years now that Democrats haven't done a good job of getting the information out there about the Affordable Care Act. Now it's life and death. The people who have services coming to them and who don't know about it, we have to get that information out there, and healthcare.gov is a great place to go to get all that information. So spreading the word about what services are available is no longer political. It's about health.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. Although, with that said, I think this is also an amazing opportunity for the Democrats to help emphasize why the Affordable Care Act is important. Why, right now, this should be an Obama ad, talking about these women and the services that he helped make available to them. I know it's taking politics into a good thing, but when you have the other side out there trying to repeal Obamacare, voting for it 33 times, and talking about it again this week to vote on it again, I think it's time to use their own messaging against them and say, okay, you want to take these services away from women? You want to tell a woman that she doesn't have access to cervical cancer screening or breast cancer screening so you can make a political point? Well, you go out there and say that, and you take the political fallout that goes along with it.
Yeah, and how we were talking about jobs, and they always talk about the jobs numbers. It'll be nice in a year or two to talk about the lives number.
Absolutely.
The number of lives saved.
And I'll even spin that back to what you said a minute ago. I'll be happy to see that number regardless of the political situation.
Right. But then people can say, this is the lives number, this is the number of lives that have been saved, and they may be someone you love. There's a stark contrast here. You can vote for the people who supported this bill all along, want to improve it, want to keep it, or you can vote for the people who want to get rid of it. It's a really easy choice.
Exactly. And, this comes as earlier this week, there was a study released by the Commonwealth Fund, found that out of the 11 most industrialized countries in the world, that the United States is last in terms of women's health care, that 43% of women in the U.S. reported they went without recommended care, didn't see a doctor when they were sick, or failed to fill a prescription because of costs. Because of costs. That all of the 10 other nations in that 11 provide universal health care. And so we may not be there yet, but this is a great step in the right direction. And I'm proud of our side of the line that helped make this possible.
And it'll be one of those things, it takes years and years. And this, when the Affordable Care Act first passed, we knew it was going to be a lot like the fight when it came to Medicare.
Absolutely.
That there's going to be an attempt for years to repeal it. But then Medicare is one of the most popular, not the most popular, governmental programs in place right now. So just think 20 years from now, after we've had an opportunity to use the services, to see the benefits, to expand upon it, or contract it where necessary, improve upon it, I think it will be just as popular and even better. So it's a great first step. And, I have to say, I was one of those people nah, this isn't enough.
Me too.
You know what? Progress rather than perfection. I'll take progress any day.
Yep. Hey, we all hope for perfection, but, we don't get there overnight. We'd still like to see those popular social safety net programs like Medicare, like Medicaid, like Social Security. Yeah, they're helping. They're great programs. They're very popular. But wouldn't we all like to see them be even better, go even further, help even more, like some of the changes that are included in the Affordable Care Act, like, seniors now being able to fill prescriptions for much less money, closing the donut hole in Medicare, allowing, people who pay into an insurance company actually get the services that they paid for without being fearful of denial based on pre-existing condition or a lifetime cap, or the fact that, you're 26 years old. It's about time that we move forward like this in this country, and this is such a great visible step.
And the right will try to scare you, saying, the government's going to control all of healthcare. You know what? Yup, it is.
Good.
It is, because they're going to increase Medicaid. It's going to, as the Medicare goes lower in age and Medicaid becomes bigger, that gap in the middle finally it's just going to be such a small amount of people who say, why don't we just cover everybody? Let's get the profit out of this. The government works efficiently despite the fact that Republicans try to make it work as inefficiently as possible. And then say, see, it sucks. No, you just suck at it.
Yeah, you make it so small you can drown it in a bathtub.
So, the percent that's paid for actual health care in those governmental programs is much higher. Even higher than during the for-profit institutions under the Affordable Care Act. Was it like 85 to 90%, whereas Medicare and Medicaid is something like 95% goes towards health care.
Right.
So that's pretty efficient, because they don't have to sit around and publicize it. They don't have to buy ads on TV. They don't have to compete with other. I know competition is supposed to be a great thing, but there shouldn't be a profit motive.
Right. You get if you have competition, but it's all nonprofit, not-for-profit companies in healthcare, I would have no problem with that. No problem.
Oh, you're so anti-entrepreneurial.
Hey, if you want to, design the next great car or the next great computer or the next great cell phone or soft drink, I don't care. Have all the competition, have all the profit you want. Right. I have no problem with that. But when it comes to social safety nets, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to, military research, no, there shouldn't be a profit in it.
Basic transportation, the basic necessities of life, food, shelter, basic clothing. I'm not saying everybody gets a house, everyone gets a mansion and a Jaguar, but basic transportation, job, the things that FDR mentioned in the Second Bill of Rights,
The ones that would make the Republicans today heads explode.
Oh, yes, it would be commie socialists, all those things.
I do want to mention that I see the Radio or Not Ustream chat is not functioning very well today. So
I'm actually in it.
Oh, okay. Well, let me try and refresh, and hopefully I can get in there as well on the next break.
I see Will in Chicago. Adam's in there.
Hi, guys.
Shape is in there. Paul Green. Oh,
I miss all those great comments, and there it is. Now I can get in.
There you go.
All of this information is great, and I don't mean to start the show off with such a serious tone, but this, as I mentioned before...
It's a celebratory tone.
Yes, it's a celebratory. We need to be taking a victory lap on that, and if that means political ads saying, yes, I just, as a Democrat, voted for the man that helped get your sister breast care screening for free, that helped your mother get the mammogram she needed without having to decide between that and groceries this week. Yes, I think that's what we take a damn celebratory lap for. Where's Obama's ad on this? Where is the quote-unquote liberal media on this? The only person who covered it last night was Rachel Maddow, and she did a damn good job, despite the fact she stole my thunder.
Well, she did wiretap you, so, because that's where she gets all her great ideas, right?
Oh, sure.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. I'll believe that in never.
Yeah.
I do want to remind...
I think the more people that are talking about it, the better.
Absolutely.
And it's great company.
Absolutely. If ever somebody, had the same idea I had, that makes me feel pretty good that she had the same idea. But with all of this great news coming up for women today, being effective today, and having at the same time, which we'll get into the details of it later, the House vote on an anti-abortion bill in D.C. was just... It was a perfect opportunity for everybody who has a strong audience and a voice and a microphone in the liberal media to say, this is the Republican Party that some people are still out there supporting. That while we're helping, while we're making these services available on the same day, they're out there trying to take them away from you, and worse. But so many people missed the mark on that. And it was just... it was a shame.
It was a stunning juxtaposition that I don't even know that they even realized they were doing it. And the thing is, not a lot of people are paying attention, but to those who are, it will shock. It shocked me.
Absolutely.
I mean, seriously, talk about bad timing. I mean, there's never good timing to vote on a law that's going to ban all abortion in the District of Columbia.
Well, it was banning all abortion over the age of 20 weeks. And not just banning, criminalizing. And that's what we're going to get into next hour. We're going to, just to remind everybody who's coming up in case you just tuned in, coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be speaking with Susie Samson of the
I'm sure the Tea Party's all freaked out about this.
Yes, of the Tea Party Report. I want to definitely highlight her great interview with Cenk Uygur and some other polling she did independently, as well as get her opinion on these changes to the healthcare law and more. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be speaking with her, and then after that, talking to Nicole, Belle, and David Shuster. So lots of great guests coming up here on Talking Left. David's in studio, so you all get to see his handsome face and hear about some great articles he's put together recently. Excuse me.
There is a cough button.
I know. It's hard to maneuver where it is with my feet. I'm not coordinated enough for that. But I did want to highlight what Representative Barbara Mikulski said, just because this was a, awesome, I stand with her type of moment, and just to celebrate the fact that she's my new representative. Senator.
During the health care debate, we wanted to do two things. We wanted to be able to save lives and save money. One of the most important tools we women have is mammograms. But in the midst of the health care debate, they wanted to take our mammograms away from us. Well, hey, not while I'm here.
I just wanted to hug her on that one, didn't you, Shane?
Absolutely.
And the video is even better. She looks like one tough cookie.
She's fiery.
Yeah. So thank you very much to Barbara Mikulski and to Senator Tom Harkin for fighting the good fight on behalf of women, on behalf of this nation as a whole, and standing up for what's right, making sure they're on the right side of history. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody understanding why this is so important to me. And any prayers and well wishes for my sister as she fights this good fight too would be very much appreciated. So don't go anywhere. We're going to run to a break, and we're going to come back with Susie Samson. She'll be calling in, so as soon as we hear from her, we'll have her on air. I hope you don't go anywhere. We got lots of great show in store for you. Thanks so much. This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
Everyone expected just a piece of fluff, but we wanted to do something important. Issue stuff.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
Hey, Columbus, we've got the cure for what makes you K-sick.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Stephanie Miller and her sexy liberal crew are coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th.
What a fun, sexy time for you.
Join comedic geniuses Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang.
Fox News is like a mecca for people who hate Mecca.
And talk radio goddess Stephanie Miller.
It's the most action I've had in I don't know how long.
As they help Columbus rediscover its funny bone.
Who's laughing now, huh? I'll tell you who's laughing now. We are!
Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com, at the Kappa Ticket Office, or by calling 800-745-3000. This is truly the show that will put the ooh back in Ohio. That's the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Show, coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th. Buckeye State, you're gonna love our nuts.
You're gonna love my nuts.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
The fundamentals of the system so bad that no matter what you do, eventually you leave in place the motivational factor of money. Money is always the motivator in capitalism. And if that's always the motivator, then eventually the people who do succeed the most are the ones who do the most harm, because that's your only goal. People be damned, environment be damned, let's make the most money. You can externalize all the expenses and internalize all the profits. You know, the monopoly game, whenever one person has all the money and we're all broke, and that's it.
Game over, man. Game over.
Every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
Come experience the next generation of progressive voices. Weekday nights on Nicole Sandler's primetime lineup at radioornot.com. Liberate yourself with filter-free radio, hosted by Jacob Dean every Monday night.
It's just the system is broken. Just bring it down. Bring it all down, right?
On Wednesday nights, take a sharp progressive turn and join Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
All those Republicans are anti-capitalist.
All of a sudden, well, no, they're just anti-Romney.
Exactly.
and it's interesting to watch the three-legged stool splinter.
Then let it all hang out both Tuesday and Friday nights on Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick.
You love the Constitution so much, but you hate the government, but you love the corporations. Where does that come from?
Tune in to the primetime Radio or Not lineup weekday nights at the Ustream home of Nicole Sandler, radioornot.com.
I'm sorry, I just find the whole thing so ironic and so mind-bending, it's just ridiculous.
Hi, this is Tim Cormall from The Tim Cormall Show. Join me and my guests most weeks for a progressive roundtable discussion about politics, news, and other fun topics. We laugh a lot about the hilarious antics of the right-wing nut jobs, as well as have serious discussions about issues affecting all of our lives. You can check out The Tim Cormall Show at timcormall.com, where you can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes by searching for The Tim Cormall Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Tim Cormall. That's CORRIMAL. So come on over and join in the fun at timcormall.com.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at radioornot.com.
Greg Palast, I realized as we were talking that actually we were supposed to do this on Wednesday, so thank you so much for bearing with me.
Well, I am thrilled that we were doing that. You jumped the other characters. Because, Nicole, I just think that your show is brilliant. And I want to thank you because my stuff may be prime time in Britain. But here, I keep slamming into the electronic Berlin Wall, and you have snuck me across and into the information stream. And I hope that your listeners are aware of how important and precious your program is. So I want to thank you.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at radioornot.com.
The More Me Show with DJ Downtown and Eddie Herradura, live from our nation's capital, every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, with hilariously scathing inches from the Beltway analysis of this week's political and social developments. The More Me Show at ProgressiveBlendRadio.com and RadioOrNot.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than
Wow. Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber.
So, but he was a union pet rock. Never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
Progressives across the country are taking action, from Madison, Wisconsin, to the Occupy movement. And now, Washington, D.C.'s newest talk radio station, We Act Radio. In this election year, Progressive Talk returns to our nation's capital. We Act Radio is proud to showcase the biggest names in Progressive Talk Radio, including Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Bill Press, Ed Schultz, Sam Cedar, and original live shows from our Anacostia studios. Take Action News with David Shuster, Speak Easy with Kamon Freeman and Ron Pinchback, and The Inside Scoop with Mark Levine. Available on your radio dial and on the web at weactradio.com. That's We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. Truth is our product.
Yes, we can.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
Yes, you are. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Wanted to remind everybody to check out all the other great shows on the Radio or Not network. Of course, every Monday, Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott. Every Tuesday and Friday is Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, now also rebroadcast on Sundays at WVKO 1580 AM in Columbus. So make sure to support all of that great news as well. The More Me Show on Sundays, Nurse Talk on Thursdays, and of course our lovely landlady, Nicole Sandler herself, every Monday through Thursday, 10 to noon Eastern. So make sure you check out all of those shows and support online free progressive media. We are waiting on a call from Susie Samson. Hopefully she didn't forget or switch the time to Pacific as she's out west. But no worries. While we're waiting for her, we can listen to her great polling done live from Hollywood, well, pre-recorded to us, of course, of people and on the street asking them if they are going to vote for Romney or Obama. It is clip 4. Pretty funny stuff.
Hi, this is Susie Samson. With Romney as the last GOP man standing, I have to admit I'm disappointed. But you can't have Ronald Reagan every time. Let's see how America feels about their choices. What do you think about Mitt Romney?
I try not to. I like to be in a good mood.
Loser. How did you feel about the other Republicans who were running?
We got McCain.
Oh, well, he was last time. What are you worried about most if Mitt Romney gets elected?
Concentration camps in America.
Oh, that's a serious statement.
He scares me. There's something in his eyes.
Does he have Michelle Bachmann eyes?
That's what it is.
President Obama, how do you feel about him?
I don't like him. He's taken away, trying to take away all our amendments.
And where is he trying to take them?
I don't know.
Maybe they're going to Cuba.
Probably. He's a Muslim.
And how do you know this?
I'm friends with Muslim people, and also because of...
So they told you?
Yeah.
So there's a secret Muslim network where they tell on each other?
He's had a special room built in the White House because they have to pray at like a certain time.
Oh, I did not know that he had so I thought the White House was pretty much done with construction for like 100 years. How do you know about the room? Oh, is it the Muslim network?
President Obama's doing the best job he can. I think he can do a little better.
What would you do to urge him to do better?
Light a fire under his ass.
In order to be president, you have to be a natural-born citizen, which the definition is both of your parents have to be citizens. And his father was not a U.S. citizen.
Our Constitution actually says you just have to be born here, not your parents.
It means your parents have to be born here.
Oh, okay. So everyone, we're all just misreading the Constitution.
Yeah.
I'm almost 50 years old. I've never voted, and I never will.
How come?
I think that the world system is in place with the Illuminati, and they're the ones that are pulling the strings behind the presidency, and it doesn't really matter who people
vote for.
The Illuminati are running the world?
Satan ultimately is running the world.
Well, at least one woman had her head on straight. As for the rest of them, Lord save those liberal blasphemers and that left-wing conspiracy Mitt just discovered.
Oh, the hilarious, the brilliant Susie Samson. Do we have you now, Susie? Are you live with us?
I'm here. How are you?
I am great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we are honored to have you. Susie Samson, of course, Susie Samson on Twitter and YouTube / Tea Party Report. Great video, great reporting you did there. Did you have fun polling people on their choices for Romney or Obama?
I always have fun polling people on their choices. America has some very interesting opinions.
Yes, they do. Did you find it ironic at all that the woman who hated Obama was wearing a T-shirt that said "Love Forever"?
You know, I have to admit you are a little more eyes wide open than I am, because I did not even notice that. I did not know she was a lover like that.
Well, she seemed very loving in your interview.
She is loving some people, not so loving of others. But she was a nice woman. I was a little confused on the timeline of the construction of the White House.
Yeah,
the Muslim room, in fairness to Obama, I was confused by that. But
maybe she knows something we don't.
Apparently she does. Apparently there's a whole constitution that we have misread.
There's a different one. We've been getting the fake one all this time.
And poo-poo to those folks who are giving us the fake one.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you couldn't, because I said
it. Yes, that's right. Susie Samson. We are speaking with Susie Samson of the Tea Party Report. Unfortunately, we are in a new studio, so I didn't have the technical know-how yet to play the actual video. So I do encourage everybody to check out your YouTube channel. But in addition to your YouTube, which is, again, YouTube / Tea Party Report, and your Twitter account, do you have a website that people can check out?
You know, I have been asked about a website quite often. I don't have one together because I just figured sometimes it's easier to send people to YouTube. But I do. I recently got the teapartyreport.com.
Great.
So I believe I will be filling that out soon. But if you go there, you'll just get, like, GoDaddy.
Yes.
So not quite yet, but hopefully that's coming in the very near future.
Well, we'll definitely check in with you closer, in a couple months and see if you have any news on that.
I hope to have that much sooner than a couple months.
Great.
The election's coming quickly, so.
Great. That's exciting news.
Thank you.
Also, the most recent video, unless in the past day or so you've updated, but is your interview with Cenk Uygur. Did you have fun on that interview? It seemed like you guys got along quite well.
We did get along. We had a few differences of opinion, but we got along famously. He's a very nice man. He's proud of his immigrant status. So,
Now, do you mind listening in to yourself so we can play the audio of that interview for our listeners?
No, by all means. I love listening to me speak.
Okay, great. If you, Shane, it's clip 3.
Hi, this is Susie Samson with a special edition of the Tea Party Report. Recently, I sat down with the young Turk himself, Cenk Uygur, and I asked this liberal, legal immigrant about some of the pressing issues facing our country today. Where are you from?
Originally from Turkey, but I have got a nice fake birth certificate.
How do you feel waking up every day being liberal?
I feel fantastic.
The Supreme Court decision came down. How did you feel? How did you feel about that?
I don't like the mandate. The mandate was originally cooked up by the Heritage Foundation, which is very conservative. Right. Nixon was in favor of it. George H.W. Bush was in favor of it, although I think George H.W. Bush was a vastly underrated president.
And I have that on camera. Gay marriage. Instead of it being marriage, change it to, as I've discovered, marriage.
Marriage is good and marriage is better or worse?
Marriage is better.
Is better.
Because it allows the gays to do whatever they want.
If that's what it gets to go to equal rights, marriage it is.
So we have found common ground. How do you feel about the immigration
issue, if you will. Some people say, well, you know, we're granting them too much. And in fact, the word grant is in the word immigrant. What if we change the word? What if instead of an immigrant, it was immigive, and then you had a better understanding of what was headed your way?
And what if instead of Mexican, it was Mexican?
I think you're stretching it a little bit.
Okay, all right. The guy who you know started all this illegal, not illegal, I should say amnesty and legal amnesty for undocumented immigrants was Ronald Reagan, of course.
I think anything Reagan did was right. I am for whatever he said.
Including selling arms for hostages to Iranian terrorists.
Well, you know, you win some, you lose some. You sort of like President Obama. Do you have any nicknames for him?
He had a wrestling nickname back in the day when he was running for president. It would have been The Change. Here comes the change off the top rope.
That sounded nice. If your day job fails, if you're going to vote for Mitt, it's Mitt and yes. So it's a mess. It's mess for America.
It seems we'll have to agree to disagree. I, for one, will be voting for Mitt's mess for America.
That was an awesome interview, Susie. You guys got along smashingly.
Thank you. I thought the same. Like I said, he's a very nice man, and he was a good sport, even though we had some big disagreements.
Well, and you were as well. You definitely, you were a shining member of the Tea Party in that interview.
I do what I can. I try and put my best foot forward every morning as a member of the Tea Party. In fact, this morning, I went out to Chick-fil-A, and I did some interviews.
I can't wait to see those.
Can we get some
It
advance
was
notes?
fascinating. Let me tell you, there were gays, and there were non-gays, and there was some yelling, and, I mean, and there was chicken. People were eating chicken.
And I do hope, sincerely, that you got all of that on camera.
By all means, I would not pass up such an opportunity. I would not. So I absolutely have it on camera, and you have some very different opinions out there.
Yes. Well, that's what makes this country so great. You know, we had the pleasure of meeting you and speaking with you at Netroots Nation, where you represented the Tea Party so well.
Thank
you. Just in case any of our listeners, you know, didn't get a chance to catch that interview and hear about how you started the Tea Party Report, can you give us a little background of how you got started doing the Tea Party Report and making these awesome videos and posting them on YouTube?
Sure. Well, I am originally from South Carolina, and I was trying to, I'm trying to make a name for myself, of course. Fox News is the holy grail. So, trying to work my way up there. And I figured what better way than to start out on my own, be, like the good patriots did a couple hundred years ago, and forge new ground, head to YouTube, and try and figure out why the liberals think the way they do.
Well, it's definitely an interesting start you've got. Have you gotten any response from Tea Party members? Have you gotten any feedback from them? Do they like the work that you're doing?
Yeah, the ones that I meet on the street, they're very fond of the work I'm doing. They agree with me, and they are pleased as punch, actually, that I'm out there representing them.
Oh, that's great.
I'm wondering, have you heard from Roger Ailes at all, the Fox News head?
Sorry?
Have you heard from Roger Ailes at all, the head of Fox News? Has he
I
contacted?
have not heard from Roger Ailes. I'm hoping that Mr. Ailes will be able to contact me through my email, or he can send me a message on YouTube, but I figure that's probably a little too informal for him. So I'm hoping Roger, he finds me. I'm a big fan of his.
Well, you have so many big fans out there. I'm sure they'll point them in the right direction. Your Twitter, again, Susie Samson of the Tea Party Report. I'm not sure if you're aware, Susie, of the changes in the Affordable Care Act that are effective today that impact women's health. And I was just curious what you thought. Well, first off, are you familiar with the changes that are effective today?
I am familiar. People can start getting some therapy, word on the street is they can start getting some of that.
And as a Tea Party member, do you have any thoughts? Do you think you know how the Tea Party is going to react to this news?
Well, I think the Tea Party, all of us folks, who are who are just, violently offended by all of this affordable health care, I think we should reject all governmental assistance. If we are getting any help from the government, we shouldn't be going to parks. We shouldn't go to those beaches because I poo-poo anyone who takes from the government.
Oh, that's a great point, that if, they're so opposed to affordable health care and these changes that they should just say no to everything, maybe not use the fire department or the police or public schools.
That's right. You know what? Maybe our children could afford to be a little less educated.
And those damn people you're interviewing on the sidewalks, those public public beaches, I've seen the videos. I mean, they're using a lot of government property to sit there and talk with you. I mean, they should really do that in their private places, right?
I guess I should take it privately. I guess I should. I should take it indoors. Maybe at the convention center. I should head inside there, see if I can get some folks. So you know what? You're right. Shame on me for heading to the beach. Shame on me.
Before we brought you on, we did play the video you have, Obama versus Romney. As I mentioned, the woman who was so adamantly sure that Obama has built a new Muslim room in the White House had the love shirt on. But I just have to ask, was the Illuminati guy for real? Did you prompt him in any way?
No. Let me assure you, he was real. I could not have asked him to make that up if I tried. No, that was a real man who really believed in the Illuminati. And well, by his attire, one might be able to assume he has some mental illness. But you know what? I don't want to help him with it because I don't want him to have health care.
Well, everybody needs to go over to YouTube, right now or on the break, since they're listening to this show, but as soon as possible, and subscribe to the Tea Party Report and check out all the new videos and all of the very important patriotic work that you're doing, Susie. And please keep us posted on when you're going to release your Chick-fil-A video.
Well, that will be coming out on Friday. You do not have to wait very long. Less than 48 hours, you will get breaking news.
I am on the edge of my seat.
I hope so. That is the only place you should be when it comes to my videos.
I couldn't agree more. Susie, thank you so much for taking time with us. I really appreciate it, and I wish every Tea Party member had your charm and poise.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate your having me on, and hopefully I'll get to chat with you again. This was a lot of fun, even if we do disagree.
Even if we do disagree, and you certainly will. Hopefully we can play some more of your stuff with your permission on the show, because it's just too good to pass up.
It would be my honor. So by all means, go nuts, and I hope people like it, and I hope they subscribe.
I certainly do as well. Thank you, Susie. You have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Susie Samson, everybody. If I can figure out how to hang up, which I'm never very good at. There we go. I figured out how to hang up again. I'm learning. I'm learning. I got some of Susie's education there. And seriously,
she is phenomenal.
She is phenomenal.
I have to say, if all Tea Party members were as enlightening and fun-loving as her, that we could get a lot more accomplished, I think.
Absolutely.
She doesn't seem very obstructionist-y to me.
She's not. I think she's got some good ideas.
And you know what? She's probably the only Tea Party member I've ever met that isn't a giant hypocrite. She said she's going to take it off the beaches now. That was my way of arguing with Susie without actually arguing with her.
I don't think there's any need to argue with Susie. She's
pretty set in her ways. She knows exactly what she thinks.
Yeah.
So I applaud that at least.
Make sure to follow her on Twitter at Susie Samson. We'll put all the links up after the show, as well as the blog post. And also, thanks to anybody who checked out the podcast from the last couple weeks. I know there was a delay in getting it up, but we are caught up finally. And
we finally got our own YouTube channel.
Yes.
So when you go to youtube.com/Tea Party Report, you can also go to youtube.com/user/Talking Left.
That's right. Pretty cool. And we need some subscribers, because as of yesterday, I think I was the only subscriber to our YouTube channel. So help us out. Show us some love over there. Anyhow, we got lots more show coming up in store for you. Well, that was an odd sentence. We've got a lot more show coming up. Nicole, Belle of Crooks and Liars, and David Shuster still joining us tonight. And we're going to get into D.C.'s 20-week abortion ban. Thankfully, it didn't pass, but just want to highlight some Republican hypocrisy and the continuing of the war on women. Lots more in store. We're going to be right back here on Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shane. Don't go anywhere, and thanks for hanging out with us.
It reflects the drama of the human experience, and isn't that the essence of art?
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
It's Tuesday, July 31, 2012.
35 to 40% of the crop normally goes to ethanol. So am I going to have to fight my Audi for lunch?
It's food versus fuel in the fight over corn ethanol as the nation's record drought continues.
There was overdrawing of power as the demand peaked.
Massive power blackout in India. Germany breaks another world solar record, while we don't. Plus, climate science bombshell.
The shock to me was that the carbon dioxide curve was right on.
A prominent climate skeptic discovers global warming is real and man-made.
Bombshell indeed. All of that and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
90% of Iowa farmers have crop insurance. It's a federal program.
Wait. Hold on, sir. A federal insurance program? That's just Obamacare for our corn.
Curses. Socialism wins again. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Des, the biggest news this week, as far as I'm concerned, is the bombshell, as you described it. Richard Mueller, formerly a climate change skeptic, has a study funded by the Koch brothers, is now pretty much all in on global warming, all in on man-made global warming.
Yes, it's hugely important, this new study. But first, a few quick headlines. A knockout blackout in India. Reuters reports that chaos has erupted in India again after the second massive failure of their electric grid in 2 days.
There was overdrawing of power as the demand peaked. As a result, 2 to 3 grids tripped simultaneously.
On Monday in northern India, traffic and transportation erupted in chaos as electricity was knocked out to over 300 million people on one of the hottest days of the year.
300 million.
Oh, yes.
And the population of the entire U.S. is
300 million.
Oh, my Lord.
And it gets worse. Power was barely restored on Tuesday when an even bigger failure occurred. 3 regional electric grids collapsed, leaving an estimated 620 million people without power, more than twice the population of the U.S. And that is said to be the largest blackout in world history. Meanwhile, last week, Germany set a new world record for renewable energy. Germany's now generating 26% of all its energy needs from renewable sources. That's up from 21% last year. Most of that comes from decentralized sources like wind and solar after a decade-long concerted effort to build wind and rooftop solar panels on homes and businesses throughout the country.
Let me just point out, 26% of the entire country, Des, you and I were on a radio show not long ago with a guy by the name of Mark Morano. He's sort of the head of the climate change denier movement, and he called that sort of power boutique energy, the type of energy that we couldn't actually rely on to do any heavy lifting.
And of course, he's wrong about that. The National Renewable Energy Lab says the U.S. can produce 80% of its energy from renewable sources by 2050.
No wonder they call him Mark Morano.
Here in the U.S., record drought has pushed U.S. ranchers and livestock producers to request that the federal government suspend quotas that divert the nation's corn crop for ethanol production. The record Midwest drought and heat waves have decimated the nation's corn and soybean crops, and that has driven up the price of corn for animal feed for livestock producers.
You've been saying for years that the use of corn in ethanol is really putting our food supply versus our fuel supply at stake.
Yeah, it's cattle versus cars. Finally, that climate science bombshell, calling himself a, quote, converted skeptic in the New York Times, prominent physicist and climate skeptic Dr. Richard Muller of UC Berkeley has released a landmark review of global temperature data. Although his study was funded by the oil billionaires and climate deniers, the Koch brothers, Muller nonetheless corroborates the findings of the global scientific community, finding that, quote, global warming is real. It is on the high end, and humans are almost entirely the cause, as he explains to MSNBC's Rachel Maddow.
The shock to me was that the carbon dioxide curve was right on. At that point, I was very surprised. The curve of global warming simply matches that of carbon dioxide. At that point, my opinion finally formed.
This was an incredible revelation, frankly. This guy was a great skeptic. As you say, he was funded by the Koch brothers, famous deniers, famous skeptics, and, well, I guess we have to thank them for funding Richard Mueller.
The climate change denial industry is now spinning furiously, trying to discredit their former friend. Some even accuse Mueller of actually being a double agent who was only posing as a skeptic for all these years.
Of course they do. For more on that story and the ones we couldn't get to, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget, you can download us anytime on iTunes. You can listen to us on your mobile device via Stitcher Radio. And you can follow us 24/7 on the Twitters at Green News Report. Keeping an eye on those double agents here at bradblog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Secret Asian man, secret Asian man, they're giving you a number and taking away your name.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than
Wow.
Ken.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not.
Radio or Not.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
Hey, Columbus, we've got the cure for what makes you K-sick.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Stephanie Miller and her sexy liberal crew are coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th.
What a fun, sexy time for you.
Join comedic geniuses Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang,
Fox News is like a mecca for people who hate Mecca.
and talk radio goddess Stephanie Miller
It's the most action I've had in I don't know how long.
as they help Columbus rediscover its funny bone.
Who's laughing now, huh? I'll tell you who's laughing now. We are!
Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com, at the Kappa Ticket Office, or by calling 800-745-3000. This is truly the show that will put the ooh back in Ohio. That's the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Show, coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th. Buckeye State, you're gonna love our nuts.
You're gonna love my nuts.
CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Yes, it will. It'll be live right here on Talking Left. Thank you guys for joining us or for hanging out with us through our first great guest, Susie Samson. Of course, want to remind everybody to check out all the shows on Radio or Not, Filter Free Radio, Turn Up the Night, Nurse Talk, The More Me Show, and, of course, our lovely landlady, Nicole Sandler. Thanks to our great stations, SoFlo Radio, Progressive Blend Radio, Talk Radio 1, And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our iTunes feed. So all the links are, of course, up at talkingleft.com. At the beginning, well, not the link to the YouTube yet.
I was going to say, did a little elf do that for us? I haven't done it yet.
The iTunes is up there. I'll put the YouTube up tomorrow. At the beginning of the show, we were covering the great news of healthcare changes effective today for women. There's been a lot of great news from the Affordable Care Act for everybody, not just women, but today is a special day for the changes that impact their health. And as I mentioned in the first hour, and anybody who watched Rachel Maddow last night saw her mention as well, on that very special day, the Republicans decided to pull their same old crap and try and vote for a bill banning abortion, criminalizing abortion.
See, the banning part didn't surprise me. The criminalizing part, see, this is a significant difference.
Yeah.
Taking someone's liberty,
criminalizing,
putting them in jail for doing something that with their own body.
Right.
That would be called liberty, freedom, all those things that the right seems to tout so highly.
Well, and as many people may or may not know, I imagine most of our listeners do, but D.C. obviously has a little bit different representation than the rest of the states.
As in none.
Yeah. As in pretty much Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton. That's about it.
But a non-voting can only speak if, I hate to say that, if spoken to.
Right.
Can't make a speech from the floor without special permission, all kinds of stuff. So if anyone lives in D.C. or you've seen seen D.C. plates, taxation without representation. That's right. The motto here.
Well, she made a speech on the House floor yesterday.
She did.
Admonishing the two. Actually, this was, wow. I have a speech of hers from back in May when she was actually banned from speaking on this bill by the authors, which were Representative Trent Frank and Senator Mike Lee. They were the authors and original sponsors of this bill. She was actually banned from testifying at the hearing about that bill in her own district. Clip number 7, Shane, mm-hmm. She'll explain a little bit why.
I asked to testify. Senator Trent Franks refused me the right to testify, even though the bill related only to my district. And he said because the rules said that the Democrats could have only one witness, and they have chosen a woman whom we recommended, by the way, Professor Christy Zink, who had an abortion at 20 weeks on the recommendation of her physicians and her family when the fetus was discovered to be hopelessly deformed. Of course, we would want the committee to hear from such a person, and the rules may well be what Representative Frank says they are. But he clearly has no sense of common courtesy, of comity, of congressional courtesy.
Congressional courtesy to allow D.C.'s sole representative that doesn't even get a vote to speak on behalf of her district. I thought it was really interesting that they tried to impose this bill, H.R. 3803, which would make it illegal to perform abortions in the District of Columbia after 20 weeks, without exception to rape or incest or the health of the mother. The only exception granted in the text of this bill is death of the mother. That is the only exception. And Christy Zink, who she refers to in that last quote you just heard, was developing a fetus that had half of a brain, that had no chance of surviving outside of the womb and would have just lived a short time, likely wrought with pain and seizures. That woman would have been forced to carry that baby to term based on this legislation. Not to mention that it's a complete and utter waste of time considering it wouldn't pass in the Senate. This, at a time when our country needs jobs and the Republicans are sitting bitching about taxes and job cuts, this is what they spend their time working on. Well, Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton went after these two authors of the bill, Trent Frank and Mike Lee, asking them why, if they were so adamant that this bill should be passed on principle, and their statement being that a fetus could feel pain after 20 weeks, then why weren't they trying to impose it to the entire United States? Why were they using the District of Columbia as their own colony, as their own testing ground for this legislation? This was one of my favorite clips. It has some stars by it, Shane, where she really gives them a piece of her mind.
It's bad enough to introduce a bill that has to do with somebody else's district where nobody, not the physicians who are implicated, not the women and families are implicated, none of them can reach you because they can't vote for you. Hardly an act of courage. If this is so important, and I have to believe it is, why wouldn't the Senator Lee and Representative Franks, introduce a bill for all the nation? Why does their courage stop at the district line?
Now, a woman that is that passionate and that awesome of a representative should get not only a voice in the matter, but in my opinion, a vote. But that's a whole nother show. She told them exactly what they should have been told. Doubtful that they actually absorbed it, that they listened, that it made any impact on this decision or future ones. But that's the stuff that should be, again, in the media. That lines like that, voices like that should be being played on national TV. Not continued talk for weeks at a time about Romney's dressage horse. Okay, it's fun. It's a cute bit. I don't see anything wrong with mentioning it as a tidbit in a show here or there. But to focus segments on it, really, when stuff like this is going on, it's ridiculous. This bill has been in the works since May. That's when the judicial hearing was taking place that Eleanor Holmes Norton wasn't allowed to comment on in her own district. And yes, maybe they played by the rules and only allowed that one vote or one voice of Christy Zink, who had a very unique and important story to tell that impacted the matter, quite well. But in her own district, to not even let the District of Columbia be represented?
It's one thing. Not only could she not speak, we are a republic, a representative democracy. And the way the people speak is through the representatives.
That's
so
right.
Essentially, by not letting her speak on it, they said, D.C., we don't care, citizens of D.C., what you say. We're going to tell you what to do. And I don't want to pull up words like revolution and those types of things, but that's exactly how this nation started. We had taxation without representation. We threw a bunch of tea, and there was a revolution. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of steps in between, but using it as their own little colony. That word colony is very specific.
Yes.
Why they're using that term, because it's exactly what they're doing. It's a little incubator, their little petri dish, and see what kind of social. They're doing this with charter schools.
Yep.
Because the people of D.C. don't have a vote.
Exactly.
And it's easy to. They're essentially imposing all their little ideas, their right-wing agenda, to see how it goes.
Exactly. And, they spent this time, Mr. Trent Frank and Mike Lee, to not allow Representative Norton to speak on behalf of her representatives, on behalf of her constituents, just so that they could make time for doctors Anthony Levantino, Colleen Malloy, and Brian Calhoun, none of whom practice in the District of Columbia, and each has published anti-abortion paperwork. They had time for 3 doctors who all wanted to speak on the theory that a fetus can feel pain at 20 weeks, but didn't have time to allow her to speak on behalf of her own district. Really, that's the correct priorities. That's really a true show of democracy, isn't it?
And on top of it, now it didn't pass, even though it got a
Right.
majority of the votes. But there's a reason why they needed 2/3, because not only did they not let certain people speak, they did not allow amendment.
Right.
There's a procedure in the House where if you bring a bill to the floor without amendment, in order for it to pass, it has to be 2/3. So they knew dang well this wasn't going to pass. This was a show. This was for their ultra-conservative base. This was a waste of time.
Yes, to say the least.
And on top of it, it's offensive.
And it's just astonishing that on the very day, the day before all of these changes for women's health care go into effect, this is what the Republicans find is important to spend their time on. This is how your tax dollars and my tax dollars are being spent, to take rights away on the eve of the very day women finally get just enough.
And I find it interesting, and this was, I thought, Rachel Maddow, the way she termed it really hits it home. It isn't that we're taking, you are taking it right away. I'm not going to rephrase it that way, but she said we are going to, that what they want to do is they want to force the victims of rape and incest to go through with pregnancy. They're forcing them to carry a child. You're imposing your will on another individual in a horrible situation.
Yep.
So impinging on their liberties, on their freedoms, on their choices, the absolute antithesis of what they say they stand for.
Well, and, not to keep harping on Eleanor Holmes Norton, but she didn't get a chance to speak on behalf of her district.
She can speak here.
So she can speak here. She brought up a great point. We just spoke to Susie Samson and her voice of the Tea Party, and we hear all of these Tea Party members talking about small government and staying out of people's lives, where Eleanor Holmes Norton brought up a great point. Where are they on this bill? Where are they on the small government now? And that's clip number 5, Shane. When they all start.
My good friends on the other side insist upon imposing their own views on the District of Columbia quite undemocratically against our will. Even if you assumed that Congress could enact laws for the District of Columbia, no one would assume that Congress could, without any democratic accountability, enact laws that went counter to the laws we ourselves have enacted. Where are the small government Tea Party members, the ones who are trying to teach the House of Representatives a lesson about pulling back even from federal matters? But you cross the line very seriously when you involve yourselves in the local matters where you yourself cannot be held accountable.
So where are they? Where's the Tea Party on this? They're all about small government and staying out of your regulations, except when it comes to a woman's uterus. That's perfectly acceptable. That just completely misses the mark. And
I can answer where the Tea Party is.
Sure.
Mike Lee is a member of the Tea Party.
Right. Well, doesn't seem very small government to want to regulate what goes on in my uterus.
No, they don't actually believe what they say. The Tea Party is right there. She already got her answer.
Right.
The Tea Party says big government, only when it comes to finances. Get out of my wallet, but I want them in my bedroom.
As far as I'm concerned, our tax dollars should be at work creating jobs, creating infrastructure projects, getting our men and women out of all of these ridiculous wars going on throughout the country, and maybe focusing on areas that we can really help, like Syria. But to regulate what goes on in a woman's uterus, regardless of what your personal beliefs are, unfortunately, the line is drawn at the level of my clothing. What goes on underneath there is none of your damn business. And I don't want my tax dollars being spent so you can try and regulate it. Representative Carolyn Maloney, Democrat of New York, brought up the point, as I said earlier, that there's no exception in this bill for rape or incest victims. And it just points to the fact that this really is a war on women, that at the very time we're getting access to all these important health care services, they're trying to take away basic rights that were already established by the Supreme Court. It's absurd. So, do we have Representative Carolyn Maloney?
This bill would use the awesome power of the state to compel the victim of a violent assault to bear the child of her attacker, and it would compel a minor child who has been the victim of incest to bear her sibling. How can you even begin to justify the intrusion of federal power into such deeply painful and personal matters? This bill is an assault on decency and common sense, and it adds to the battery of weapons being used by our Republican colleagues in their war against women.
The war against women is real. And even as we're winning the battle over here, as we did today, effective August 1st, where, women's health screenings are now affordable, at least for many more women than they were before. At the same time, these continued battles rage on. There's fighting for abortion. There's fighting for contraceptive rights. There's fighting for equal pay in the workplace. These issues still remain. And in this day and age, I think it's a little absurd that we're still talking about this. Shane, do you have an opinion on that?
They're going to talk about it. This is going to be a fundraiser. This is. They want to talk about this. This is something that can. This is how people can vote. They appeal to religious zealots. This is how people vote against their own economic interests, because they'll pick this one issue and they'll go vote for the conservative, even though the conservative wants to take away all their social safety net, their health care, wants to take care, because of God.
Right.
And I know everyone jumped all over then candidate Obama, who said, God's, people clinging to their God and their guns and voting against their best interests. Remember that during the last campaign? But it's very true. It's how
it's absolutely true.
You can use the social issues to obfuscate and have people ignore the financial and fiscal issues. And this is a lightning rod. It will be. They don't want Roe v. Wade overturned. They want it there as a fundraiser and a way to get very religious conservatives to vote for Republicans.
Well, I think that every religious conservative that wants to spend money and support actions like this should then have to actually pay for the raising of the child that woman was forced to bear, not to mention the medical expenses for mental and physical health. Everybody wants to hate abortion, but once the baby's born, screw you, you're on your own. You shouldn't get Medicaid or health care or, free education or school lunch.
If you can't make it, blame yourself.
Yeah, you better be born with bootstraps.
There aren't a lot of those out there anymore.
No, there aren't. Several states already have anti-abortion legislation in place, including Alabama, Arizona, Georgia, Kansas, Louisiana, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin. Mississippi has passed it. It's currently being challenged. And some states are still trying to fight to ban abortion, including Ohio, Utah, Arizona, Tennessee, Michigan, and D.C. That's what we're up against. We get to celebrate this victory lap and say, yay, it's awesome. I can actually get screened for breast cancer. And wow, I still have jerks out there who want to take away the rights the Supreme Court has granted me. It's
You know what? Can I correct you there? The Supreme Court didn't grant those rights.
Right.
The Supreme Court said the Constitution did.
True.
So
the Supreme Court has settled.
Yeah, and Justice Scalia is just itching to overturn it.
Oh,
he said it himself last Sunday.
Yeah, you don't happen to have that, do you?
I do not. I got lots of him talking like an arrogant pain in my butt, but he wants nothing more to look back at Roe. He wants that, and I'm telling you, while I say they'd never want to overturn Roe, they might be able to do it. They are trying to line up and time it just in that time, because they also asked Scalia, for example, when are you going to retire? You're going to wait till there's a conservative in the White House? And he pretty much said, yeah.
Pretty much.
So they just need one more.
Yep.
One more. That's it.
That's it for not only Roe v. Wade, but possibly a lot of other legislation that's very important.
They want Griswold gone too.
Yeah, all these wonderful changes that were effective today with Obamacare. Oh, they'd find a way to take that out as well.
They're going to have to do it pretty dang quick.
Well,
because the Supreme Court never should have even heard the Affordable Care Act and the mandate, because no one has been subject to it. Therefore, it's not what's called ripe. But the reason they forced it, the opposition to the Affordable Care Act forced it and wanted it now because they know dang well when all the citizens start experiencing the benefits of this, because it's hard for a regular citizen to sit there. It's hard. I haven't read the entire thing to go through those and understand what those benefits are. But after you've experienced them, you've had those benefits, you try to take them away, you're going to have a backlash. The same thing happened with Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. So they wanted to do it before those benefits went into place. As those benefits go into place, it's going to be harder and harder to get rid of.
I think that's why they continue to vote on it. Not just on a matter of, as Republicans say, get it on the record. I think they hope that they're going to...
We know what the record is.
Exactly. But I think they're hopeful that they're going to schedule a vote and maybe a few people can't make it that day. Or, somebody just maybe gets it squeaked by with one vote. I think they're going to continue to do it for that reason, and just so they don't have to focus on jobs. Just so that they don't have to actually do anything that improves this economy and allows Obama to get any credit whatsoever. What do you think? Why do you think they continue to vote, Shane?
I honestly can't tell you why.
Because they considered, we already know they've voted on overturning Obamacare 33 times.
I don't know why.
They were just this week.
They've made it crystal clear exactly where they stand.
Right.
I mean, what is the definition of insanity?
Repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
There you go. I don't know why.
And Mitch McConnell stood on the floor this week and said, well, why don't we vote on it again? Why? Is it that you just don't want to work on anything else? Is it that you continue to want to attack those in, the working class, women, seniors, the disabled, or that you just like wasting taxpayer dollars?
Does anyone in the chat room have an idea why it's 33 times? I usually I can come up with some cynical answer as to why.
Well, I'll continue to watch the chat room. There's always a delay.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me.
Well, Representative Ted Deutsch of Florida, I've often found a lot of great comments that he's made, but he kind of got to the same point we did on this D.C. bill. Where does it end? How far are they going to continue to go? Why do they keep pressing this issue? And he had a great point on the matter.
Tonight, it's the District of Columbia. Tonight, 20 weeks is the threshold for turning a constitutional right into a crime. What is tomorrow? 10 weeks? 10 days? Where does it end? Mr. Speaker, when they talk about competing rights, they are intent on granting even to a newly fertilized egg the constitutional rights of American women. They want to put the rights of a zygote ahead of the rights of a woman exercising autonomy over her own body. My colleagues say this bill is limited in scope, but their intentions, Mr. Speaker, are not limited in scope. Mr. Speaker, right now in this Congress and across the country, the rights of American women are under attack. It is sad that we must fight to defend these rights, but fight, Mr. Speaker, we will.
That's right. We will. We will. We will. I will. I know the listeners will. We will continue to fight. But
it's a fight that still shouldn't be going on.
The chat room, Adam in the chat room, said that they continue to vote on health care so that they look busy even though they're not accomplishing any work, because they know if they do anything that actually improves the economy, Obama will get the credit.
Okay. They're just trying to they're trying to do just enough not to lose their jobs.
Right.
Work just hard enough to not lose their jobs.
Right. Although we'll see what their constituents think about that.
We should divide up the Congress into cubicles because they are straight out of Office Space.
Maybe they'd actually get something done then.
Well, it wouldn't work out because they definitely don't work weekends. We're going to need you to stay.
We're going to need you to come in on Saturday.
Yeah, we're going to have a vote
on healthcare.
Healthcare. And and on Sunday I'll need you to come in too.
Yeah.
No, they're flying home.
That's a pretty funny joke. There's a bit in there somewhere.
Yeah, by someone far funnier than me.
But, I don't mean to make the show so serious again, and we're going to talk to Nicole Belle at the bottom of the hour in just a few minutes here, and I'm sure her brilliant mind can lighten the mood up a little bit. But
I don't have a jingle.
It's just important that we talk about this, and while we're busy focusing on the Olympics and Romney's tax returns and dressage horses and, Obama's next political ad, these are things that need to be talked about too. That, I would love for any one of these Republicans that think this is an important vote, that this is how tax dollars should be spent, to look me in the eye and tell me I'm not entitled to an abortion, or I'm not entitled to a cancer screening, or look their daughter or their sister or their mother in the eye and tell them the same thing. Or how about repealing Obamacare and tell their college students, sorry, buddy, you should have had better bootstraps. I'm not covering you on my insurance anymore. Or, your disabled relative that now they've got to continue to pay out of pocket for health care expenses that Obamacare would have covered. Look me in the eye and tell me that. Stop standing, hiding behind the call screener in your office and tell your constituents one-on-one why you support taking away their rights, why you support taking away their access to health care. And if you can do that, I might have an ounce more respect for you, but I still think you're standing on the wrong side of history. Just my opinion.
Not bad.
Well, on that serious note, we are going to get to Nicole Belle. She'll put us all in a better mood. She always does because, you can never have too much Nicole Belle. So don't go anywhere. Of course, we got her, Nicole Belle, Crooks and Liars, the one and only, coming up next. And after that, we'll have David Shuster from Take Action News live in studio talking about some great articles he put out recently. So cheer up, hang in there, and we'll be right back on Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shane O.
Whoa! Awesome! Totally awesome! All right! It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shane-O.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not.
Radio or Not.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
Hi, this is Tim Cormall from The Tim Cormall Show. Join me and my guests most weeks for a progressive roundtable discussion about politics, news, and other fun topics. We laugh a lot about the hilarious antics of the right-wing nut jobs, as well as have serious discussions about issues affecting all of our lives. You can check out The Tim Cormall Show at timcormall.com, where you can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes by searching for The Tim Cormall Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Tim Cormall. That's CORRIMAL. So come on over and join in the fun at timcormall.com.
To know which way the economic winds are blowing, just check such newspaper headlines as these: underemployed and underpaid, shrinking consumers, economy leaving lost generation. This devastating economic hurricane is not the natural product of market forces, as the financial elite want us to believe. Rather, it's a direct hit from the ethos of plutocratic greed that now prevails among a cabal of our country's corporate and governmental decision-makers. They keep putting the short-term selfish interests of the few over the future well-being of America's many. National interest be damned. Another recent headline offers a galling example of this short-sighted avarice in action. China takes tech tips from Silicon Valley. The story behind the headline is that Chinese officials have launched a crash program to zoom their country into the lead of the world's knowledge economy by surpassing our country as the entrepreneurial innovator and owner of the high-tech future. And guess who's helping them make this great leap forward over the USA? Our own venture capitalists, corporate executives, and university officials. That's who. You might recall that only a dozen years ago, America's middle-class workers were told not to worry about the offshoring of their good-paying manufacturing jobs because their future lay in the new knowledge-based economy. As we now see, that was a lie, for Silicon Valley itself is presently hightailing it to China. This is Jim Hightower saying, chasing quick profits for themselves, U.S. firms are transferring our technical knowledge, competitive edge, and middle-class future nearly 7,000 miles away from us. Why is this crass betrayal of America's workaday families not even being talked about in this year's elections? To help raise hell, go to AmericanManufacturing.org.
To get more of Jim Hightower's populist take on what Wall Street and Washington are up to, visit www.hightowerlowdown.org.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott. Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or not. And filterfreeradio.com.
People don't think critically anymore. Just to examine or critique the system, the culture, political assumptions, things that they see on TV. I mean, whatever happened to this thing, oh, don't believe everything you see or hear?
Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
Progressives across the country are taking action, from Madison, Wisconsin, to the Occupy movement. And now, Washington, D.C.'s newest talk radio station, We Act Radio. In this election year, Progressive Talk returns to our nation's capital. We Act Radio is proud to showcase the biggest names in Progressive Talk Radio, including Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Bill Press, Ed Schultz, Sam Cedar, and original live shows from our Anacostia studios. Take Action News with David Shuster, Speak Easy with Kamon Freeman and Ron Pinchback, and The Inside Scoop with Mark Levine. Available on your radio dial and on the web at weactradio.com. That's We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. Truth is our product.
Yes, we can.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at radioornot.com.
Your view is not being represented in this country because all of our views have been corrupted by money and politics. Remember, 94% of the time, the candidate who raises the most money wins.
That's the fact that we need to drive home constantly. It's all about the money. Dylan Radigan, you rock.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at radioornot.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than
Wow.
Ken.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
Yes, you are. Welcome back to Talking Left. Joining us on the phone is the lovely, the one and only, one of our very near and dear friends, Nicole Belle of Crooks and Liars. Nicole, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you so much for joining us. We've missed you.
I have missed you guys, too. It feels like it's been forever since I've talked to you.
Yeah, we've been a little busy, as have you, with your recent trip to Mexico.
I did. We snuck away for a little mommy and daddy vacation and went to Mexico, left the kids with my sister so they could do all the Disneyland and Southern California stuff, and mommy and daddy could do all the mommy and daddy stuff.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear you guys got some time to party down in Mexico and hopefully have a few tequila shots.
A few.
Nice. I've kind of themed this show around the changes effective today on women's health and access to medical screening and cancer screening, and how the right has reacted to it, including the recent vote on abortion for D.C. So I was curious on what your thoughts were on the situation.
Well, you know what's funny is that I thought it was a very muted celebration. I mean,
I agree.
This is a big deal. This is not a women's reproductive health issue. This is a family values issue.
Well said.
This is we're talking about the kind of country we want to be in, and we're going to say right now, women, you have the right to expect health care and not have to go, do I pay for groceries or do I pay for a, copay for a pap smear or for a mammogram or to go and get a prescription for birth control pills. I mean, all of those are things that are very serious economic factors that millions of women are making daily.
Yeah.
And that's taken away from them. That's not an issue any longer. This is a really, really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that
there's nothing.
Yeah, I thought for sure there'd be more about this in the media, and the only person I saw covering it was Rachel Maddow. But don't you think this is also a great talking point coming into the election of, can't you just see the ad of here's the women that this has helped, that somebody able to identify they had a cancer gene or detect cancerous cells from a pap smear before it led to actual tumors, things like that. I mean, there's plenty of material there for the politics side of it, right?
Absolutely, and I really, really hope that the Obama administration takes advantage of it and that we do see the campaign putting it in those terms, because those are terms that people absolutely can understand. When the right grabs it and turns it into a religious liberty issue, that's a tough sell. I mean, they tried to do that, and I don't know if they got very far because, thankfully the left came back with the war on women. But it does, when you put it in those terms, when you put it on very human terms, here is Nancy. Nancy is alive today because she was able to get cancer screenings.
Yep.
Or here is, Sue. Sue is now the happy, thrilled mother of two. She wouldn't have had those children if she didn't have HPV screenings for free.
Right, or the gestational diabetes, the breastfeeding supplies. I highly doubt most men, unless they're have children of their own, realize how expensive breastfeeding supplies can be, like the cost of a quality breast pump, so that you could work and actually have your children on breast milk, which doctors say how important and how nutritional this is. It's often like $300.
Oh, it gets worse than that, Danny. This is an absolutely true story. My oldest daughter was born prematurely, and could not nurse right away.
Right.
Was not able to, just couldn't grasp the whole thing, and so thankfully part of my insurance covered, a lactation specialist. They got me a breast pump because I was determined we were going to breastfeed. That baby was going to have everything that she could get. But the way that it worked out is that my daughter's pediatrician was the one who had to my gynecologist wrote the breast pump prescription and wrote failure to thrive for my daughter because my daughter couldn't nurse.
Right.
Insurance wouldn't pay because it was a prescription for my daughter written by my doctor, not my daughter's doctor.
Oh, and that's a prime example of, why this legislation is important. I made a very personal connection to this at the beginning of the show because my sister was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and she is being amazingly strong and fighting it, and she's got great chance of, beating the crap out of this thing. But,
good.
Not just the position of her getting tested and her discovering this problem before it had progressed much further, but me as her sister actually knowing I need to go get screened and make sure that I'm not in the same position. That's
Absolutely.
So important. And to have these changes effective today, the same day, yesterday, while the House is voting on taking abortion rights away in D.C. It's just, it almost makes your brain turn into a pretzel?
Well, they knew that wasn't going to pass. They knew that they couldn't possibly pass. It's the same as the 35 vote
33.
Obamacare?
Yeah, we were discussing that last segment. Yeah. 33. Very effective use of tax dollars, don't you think?
Exactly. But they know they're not going to pass, but they have to placate the wacko fringe base. So they have to do these, pro forma votes just to say, we're against it, we're fighting everything we can do, so that they're not going to get taken out by these Tea Party kooks who are taking out, conservative Republicans left and right by claiming they're just not conservative enough.
Right.
So, it's ridiculous.
It's
and
absolutely
is a absolutely legal and in some cases medically necessary procedure.
Well, as birth control is, they constantly harp on the loss of life and all this nonsense. There's millions of women in this country that take birth control for no reason having anything to do with sex, just for medical reasons that their doctors have prescribed it for. And they just, cut off all their rights at the same time if these people had their way?
Exactly. Well, and I think that goes to show you why it's dangerous to have a government filled with too many men, frankly. Why I want to see more women running, because even conservative women, with the exception of Michelle Bachmann, because I'm pretty sure she's not even human at this point.
But hey, even she
women understand these are issues that women face. This is an economic issue. For as much as Republicans want to talk about trying to save money and cut back on entitlement programs, what do you think you're going to do? What do you think you're doing to the demand of entitlement programs if you're going to take away contraception and abortion from women?
Right. How many more people do you think are going to be on the Medicare, Medicaid rolls at that point? But
exactly.
you made a great point just a few minutes ago. Of course, we're speaking with Nicole Belle of Crooks and Liars, that it's not just a woman's issue, it's a family issue. And I think that's a great way to present the message here, because it's your sister, it's your mother, it's your wife, it's your coworker. And there's so many ways financially. You could take the whole religious argument out of it, that you can get involved here. Your sister would maybe otherwise need your help financially to get treatment for one of these diseases, or your coworker would have a loss of productivity because of these illnesses and symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that I think could be a winning argument for Democrats message-wise. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And it goes back to the issue of how many more people do you need on Medicare and Medicaid? How many more people do you need getting, I don't know what they call it now. It's not AFDC. It's WIC. What is it?
WIC, Women, Infants, Children.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many economic impacts to this, and it is. Are you going to tell your mother who has polycystic ovary syndrome and is in pain constantly, sorry, you know what, too bad for you? Are you going to tell your 15-year-old daughter who made a mistake and is now pregnant, you know what, too bad?
Right.
Are you going to tell the rape victim, gosh, you know what, sorry, you suck it up, it's your fault?
Well, apparently, if you're Trent Frank and Mike Lee, yes, you would have said yes to all of those questions, that yes, it's your fault. It's pretty astounding.
That it is pretty astounding, and I think this goes back to the question of what kind of country do we want to be, and I want to see people in Frank's and Lee's district confronting them and saying, "Are you telling me that
Yeah, Mike Lee didn't. I don't have the audio of this, but Mike Lee didn't even put out a press release when he authored this bill. The typical, I'm not sure if most people are aware, typical procedure when they author a new bill like that, they would put out a release explaining the bill and getting, supporters for it. He didn't even put out a release. He just kind of slipped this one in fly by night, and it was Eleanor Holmes Norton, the representative of D.C., who put out a release explaining Mike Lee's bill.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was...
I really wish that she would have a vote in Congress.
I agree. She's awesome. We played a lot of clips of her earlier. So, all this war on women talk and these awesome changes and how it's being messaged to the American public made me, of course, search both the candidates and the president's ads. Have you seen Obama's ad about Romney's war on women?
I haven't.
Oh, well,
that one.
We will definitely play it for you. There's obviously a video to go along. We aren't able to show our listeners that, but here's the audio of it if you're ready.
I've never felt this way before, but it's a scary time to be a woman. Mitt Romney is just so out of touch.
Mitt Romney opposes requiring insurance coverage for contraception, and Romney supports overturning Roe v. Wade. Romney backed a bill that outlaws all abortion, even in cases of rape and incest.
There's so much we need to do. We need to attack our problems, not a woman's choice.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
See, I thought that was pretty good overall. Maybe not the most effective ad production-wise, but the message was right. What do you think?
The message is right, but I think you need to personalize this. I really think that it's hard for people to understand the impact this has unless you take it out of the abstract.
I absolutely agree.
When you say Romney, I think this is the thing. I got a PolitiFact memo saying that Obama was not being truthful about that. But if you say Romney doesn't believe in exceptions for rape and incest, what you need to do is you need to show a frightened little girl and say this little girl is doomed because of Romney's policies.
Yeah. Or a woman that's, old enough to consent to the video, but that can give an honest story of it.
Right.
I think that's why we see, what
you're being all consensual.
we're seeing the same exact thing that you're talking about in Romney's ads right now that are the ones completely taking Obama's "you didn't build it" comment out of context, where the Republicans are so good at this messaging part, and it's something the Democrats have to work on, but they're taking actual small business owners and putting them on camera, naming their business and saying, darn right, I built this, regardless of the fact that the original comment was completely out of context. But they personalize it.
Those people didn't build it.
Exactly.
They didn't actually build it. But, you have to do that. You have to put this in terms that people understand. It's when you say things like except for the cases of rape and incest, it's abstract. People kind of go, right. They've heard these phrases so much, they're inured to it. They need to put that in real terms for people. You need to see a teenage girl with her, crying and with her hair messed up and her clothes ripped, understand the trauma that this child is going through, that you're going to make her continue to go through.
Yeah. Or, absolutely. There's just so many ways to personalize that and show people what these Republicans in Congress, are really spending their time on. Laws like that are saying the rights of a zygote are not just equal to, but trump the rights of the woman who could have been severely assaulted or abused. And it's just... It's mind-numbing that they continue to do this over and over in state after state, and now to a district that doesn't even get to vote democratically and have a voice in the matter.
Well, and to me, that is such a typically Republican thing to do. You bully the person who's the weakest.
Yeah.
D.C. has no vote. D.C. has no say. So we're just going to go ahead and beat the hell out of
Yeah, they
DC.
use it as their little experimental colony.
Right. And you know what? There are real human beings there. There are people's lives that you are impacting for the rest of their life. I love my kids. I made a conscious decision to have my kids. But that's a life-changing decision. Nothing about me is the same as it was before I had a child.
Of course.
And this is what Republicans who say they want to get government out of your life, give you that liberty, are telling people of D.C. We're going to decide your life for you. We're going to make those decisions. We're going to get into your business and into your private life, and we're going to make those decisions for you.
They're saying that I almost feel like it's the holier than thou, that we're better equipped to make these decisions for you. We have better ideas on how these decisions should be made, that you're not entitled to or smart enough or educated enough to make this decision about your own body by yourself.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and, I think I kind of clued into, there's an element of that that is very prevalent in the Mormon Church, without getting into too many specifics, because I don't want the Mormon Church coming down on you.
But I'm intrigued. Do tell.
No, but I mean, the whole thing with Romney talking about cultures in Israel, to me, was a very telling thing for him to do, because, I grew up in a very predominantly Mormon area of Southern California, and they do believe that they are superior. I mean, really superior, and you don't question elders ever.
I think that explains a lot about Romney, don't you?
Exactly. And so when you see things like this, when you see him telling Israelis, well, obviously you guys are doing great because, you're just a superior culture, ignoring 4,000 years of anti-Semitism, not to mention ignoring completely, the cause of the oppression of the Palestinian people. It really, to me, I was like, oh, that's such a Mormon thing to do.
Yeah, I really personally enjoyed him praising praising Poland on their low healthcare costs.
Yeah,
yeah.
Considering honestly,
they have nationalized healthcare,
he did it in Israel as well.
Yeah.
He talked about how low their healthcare costs were relative to their GDP, and I gotta wonder if his handlers have any clue how to handle him.
Well, but if the superiority complex that you're discussing is true, that would make it very difficult for a handler to have any control over the matter whatsoever. I mean, wouldn't it have to be, and I imagine this is a hard find, an elder in the Mormon Church that knows a lot about politics and how elections are won?
There are a number of those, though. Mormons have been in positions of governance outside of Utah for a very long time. I mean, there's a joke. My dad worked for the State Department. There's a joke that all of those three-letter acronym departments are headed by Mormons.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
No, there's a lot of there's a you get authoritarianism, you get the sense of justice and right and wrong. It appeals to the Mormon culture. So there is a lot of that in there. And as far as Romney is concerned, I almost feel like he's getting to the point where he's tossing this race. So, you don't go to England and insult the host. You don't go to Israel and basically implied that Jews are big, rich moneymakers either.
Is it possible that he's just one of those people that is so socially inept that he doesn't realize the gaffe, he doesn't realize the mistake until it's pointed out to him?
I guess it must be, but then that to me goes, you know what? The media's has got to be telling that story, because there's no reason why we should have two candidates so close when you've got someone so clearly not ready for prime time.
Romney's going to take up badminton next, I think. Did you get it?
I couldn't hear you, Shane. What?
I said Romney's going to take up badminton next and start throwing games there too. And by the way, you're talking about
outcries.
You're talking about elders in terms of actually Romney is an elder in the Mormon Church.
Right.
He's a bishop,
right?
So he is the one you would go to ask these questions.
Well, but I've heard. I don't know what the factual part is, but I have heard that that's kind of similar to just like your local preacher or priest in another, like in the Catholic religion or Protestant religion. I don't know what the case is on that. I'm by no means an expert on Mormonism, but I think we think of a bishop in the Christian sense, and I don't think that's necessarily the case in the Mormon sense.
First of all, Mormons are Christians, but you're thinking the Catholic sense.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not bishops in the Catholic sense of being, priests who've worked their way up the bureaucracy, so to speak. They don't have any cute little white hats or.
I want to see even one of those hats so bad.
Go behind the cardinals in the entourage or whatever like that. But Mormon bishops have a lot of power.
Okay.
And they can get very, very, very into the business of the people in their ward or stake.
Well, I learn something from you every day, Nicole. It has been too long, and hopefully,
we're gonna have Mormons coming after us. I swear to God.
That's fine. TalkingLeft.com. You can find me there. Anyhow, I appreciate.
And if we're wrong, please tell us.
Yes,
we'll
I'm
absolutely
not by any means saying I'm an expert. Well, and Shane, aren't you going to flirt with Nicole? It wouldn't be an episode of Talking Left without it.
Well, I
didn't know Shane was even there until he spoke up at the end.
Well, the thing is that with the new space here, and since we moved to DC, I have a lot more buttons to push and stuff. So I do. And from the beginning, the Talking Left was really Danielle is the host and me is kind of Mike too. So when there's guests on, I kind of lay back. But trust me, I was swooning. I always swoon.
But not with Nicole Belle. It's not an episode of Talking Left with Nicole Belle on it if you don't flirt a little bit.
I know. I also put up on Twitter too. I was like, my girlfriend's up there.
And he doesn't mean me.
It's good to hear and talk to you, Nicole.
Absolutely. Hopefully it won't be like a several-month lapse before we speak with you again.
Hopefully.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking time with us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Love you.
Love you, too.
Bye.
Bye. Nicole Belle, everybody. The one and only, the beautiful, the lovely, the brilliant, of Crooks and Liars. Go and check out Nicole Belle's blog on crooksandliars.com.
Blog 8.
Yeah, it's Blog 8. You won't be sorry. Always great stuff up there. And every week puts a memorandum of soldiers that we have lost in Iraq and Afghanistan. So that's something very few people take the time to do. And it should definitely be
and
Four
Freedoms
Freedoms.
does as
Yes, Trisec. But as I said, few people, but few great people, as both of them are. Remember, we've got David Shuster coming up in the next hour, so don't go anywhere. We've got more fun stuff, not so much serious stuff coming up. Make fun of some Republican talking points and get into the Media Matters mashup. So hopefully you're still hanging with us on this more serious episode of Talking Left, but we'll be right back. We'll try and lighten it up a bit. Thanks so much for listening to us. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and you're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not.
Radio or Not.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
If you missed The Boca Show on 1470 WNN, you missed this.
Alan West got elected in this area because of the brain-dead elderly who thought they were voting for Adam West.
Oh, why, thank you, Tinkle Fairy.
The Boca Show, Sundays at 4 on WNN.
This is the Media Matters Minute. I'm Brad Herring. Governor Romney has been under fire recently for a series of gaffes that he made during his overseas trip. However, Romney can count on Fox News to praise his trip and divert attention from his gaffes. John Bolton talked up the candidate and failed to disclose his campaign ties in an appearance with Megyn Kelly.
Ambassador John Bolton is a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor. Ambassador, welcome back. So he seemed to please our friends in Israel, and tick off some of our friends in London. So how's he doing so far on his international trip?
Well, I think it's been a very successful trip. I think the issue about the Olympics in London was a veritable tempest in a teacup. And I think
As background, on March 27th, John Bolton, former ambassador to the United Nations, signed an open letter to President Obama in which he was listed as Romney Foreign Policy Advisor. For this story and more, visit MediaMatters.org.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
You can always go back to Rome and Greece. And let's face it, kingdoms. You know, it wasn't until a couple hundred years ago that we realized that, hey, monarchies don't work. Let's think of another kind of system of governance. You know, it's something a little less hierarchical, if you will, at least concentrated power. Then again, when you're dealing with money, capitalism is about money and the exchange of money, then concentrated power works really well.
Radio or not, and filterfreeradio.com.
Hi, this is Tim Cormall from The Tim Cormall Show. Join me and my guests most weeks for a progressive roundtable discussion about politics, news, and other fun topics. We laugh a lot about the hilarious antics of the right-wing nutjobs, as well as have serious discussions about issues affecting all of our lives. You can check out The Tim Cormall Show at timcormall.com, or you can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes by searching for The Tim Cormall Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Tim Cormall. That's CORRIMAL. So come on over and join in the fun at timcormall.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than Ken.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
Are you living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiostations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiostations.com. Be sure to like Left-Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiostations.com. United we stand.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Greg Palast, I realized as we were talking that actually we were supposed to do this on Wednesday, so thank you so much for bearing with me.
Well, I am thrilled that we're doing that. You've jumped the other characters. Because, Nicole, I just think that your show is brilliant, and I want to thank you because my stuff may be prime time in Britain. But here, I keep slamming into the electronic Berlin Wall, and you have snuck me across and into the information stream. And I hope that your listeners are aware of how important and precious your program is. So I want to thank you.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at RadioOrNot.com.
Hey, Columbus, we've got the cure for what makes you K-sick.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Stephanie Miller and her sexy liberal crew are coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th.
What a fun, sexy time for you.
Join comedic geniuses Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang.
Fox News is like a mecca for people who hate Mecca.
And talk radio goddess Stephanie Miller.
It's the most action I've had in I don't know how long.
As they help Columbus rediscover its funny bone.
Who's laughing now, huh? I'll tell you who's laughing now. We are!
Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com, at the Kappa Ticket Office, or by calling 800-745-3000. This is truly the show that will put the ooh back in Ohio. That's the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Show, coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th. Buckeye State, you're gonna love our nuts.
You're gonna love my nuts.
The most important online radio station.
It's easier than ever to listen to SoFlo, on the air and everywhere. On any computer, any mobile device, iPhone, iTouch, and anywhere you are, just hit SoFloRadio.com. Tell your friends about South Florida's radio network, SoFloRadio.com.
CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Yes, it will. It'll be live right here on Talking Left. Thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight. I know it's been a serious show, but it's been a very important issue, and as I said before, it's an important issue to me, but we're going to have some fun now, and we've got a great guest coming up at the bottom of the hour, David Shuster of Take Action News, so definitely hang around and wait for him because he's worth it. Thanks to all of our stations, Progressive Blend Radio, Talk Radio 1, SoFlo Radio, our great podcasts on iTunes or TalkingLeft.com, and of course, Home Sweet Home, RadioOrNot.com. It is officially time for the Media Matters Mashup segment we do every week to have a little bit of fun with the news going on, with the right wing's head collectively exploding every week.
This is the Media Matters Mashup.
And we've got a few great clips. I thought we'd start off, unfortunately. Sorry,
I love
everybody.
this segment, by the way.
It's one of my.
I know a lot of people get really, I hate Fox News. No. The thing is, Media Matters,
they do it so we don't have to.
But also, they take the best ones.
Right.
Now, granted, a lot of the right says the same things over and over again. They're very, very lockstep. They'll say the same things, but they find the most outrageous ones, and they're so much fun to mock.
Pretty much.
It doesn't make you explode. This is cathartic to me.
It is pretty funny. There was one I thought was especially laughable because it was Bill Nye. And I don't know if everybody remembers this show of Bill Nye the Science Guy, but I kind of grew up watching it. And Bill Nye blamed the media overall for Obama being unaccountable on the environment. Here it is.
So we have these raging wildfires and severe storms, severe droughts. Are you disappointed that Mr. Obama has let this issue die?
Well, if I'm disappointed, everybody, it's in you guys. I think if the media asked both of these people who are running for president of the United States about climate change, they'd have to respond. So I look forward to the debate. I think this will, with the proper prompting from the media, from the press, we can get answers to this.
I just think, who knew Bill Nye was the voice of Shaggy, right? But
okay.
I just love the awkward moment, and the video of this is great.
Climate change.
Because, because she's asking him this serious question on, why isn't Obama accountable for the climate change? And he basically says, because of you. And her expression changes instantly. And it's just one of those priceless television moments that everybody should go over to Media Matters and check out.
I'm trying to figure out what the question meant. So now climate change is Obama's fault too?
Her question was, because of all this, the extensive drought, heat, the derecho storms,
right,
that why isn't anybody questioning Obama? Why is he not accountable on all the promises he made regarding climate change? And Bill Nye turns around and says, because the media hasn't held him accountable.
Accountable?
I know.
So if President Obama walked out there and said, we're going to, he already has talked about capping emissions, that's going to go where?
Right.
Oh, I love it. So it's absolutely brilliant. Who was that asked that question? Offhand?
I had, if you would have asked me a few hours ago, I would have remembered.
I know, they all blend together,
yeah.
The news models.
But everybody can go over to Media Matters and check it out.
Fantastic.
So I don't know if you have the clip list in front of you, Shane.
I do.
But I always get to run the show. So any of them seem of particular interest to you?
I wanted to know in the first hour when we first started talking about the Affordable Care Act and the things going into effect today, what was El Rushbo's spin on this? Because he went on for weeks, lost lots of people who
sponsors.
Sponsors.
Yes.
Thank you for.
Because of what he did with Sandra Fluke.
Right, and all that ranting and raving. So I wondered if he was going to continue that.
He may have today. When I pulled the Rush clip, it was from yesterday. By the time I headed to the studio today, there didn't seem to be anything new up there. I'm sure it'll be posted tomorrow because, his general comment is always that, women need to spend so much money on contraceptives because they're spending so much time having sex, is his general premise about the whole thing. Yeah. But in good Rush Limbaugh fashion, he didn't leave the area of feminism and women's issues.
Misogyny.
Yeah, alone for a day. So he didn't disappoint. He did let us know that feminism, in fact, Shane, was created to let unattractive women have access to the mainstream. Did you know that?
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
One of primary reasons of feminism, undeniable truth of life number 24, feminism, written by me, feminism was established so as to permit easier access to the mainstream unattractive women.
Yeah.
So what
does that even mean?
Well, so Rushism was to let unattractive
he was actually
like him access to the mainstream?
We'll be nice and we'll put it in context.
What was
he was reading a study that said certain jobs have been known to what's the word I'm looking for? Not to hire very attractive women because it wasn't appropriate. Thank you. Exclude extremely attractive women. And he gives some examples like prison guard, tow truck driver, instances where women are saying they're being discriminated against because they're too attractive. That was, I don't know what nonsense where he got this nonsense study, but that's what he was talking about. So he takes from that and says, feminism was created so unattractive women would have access to the mainstream. What?
What a pig.
Yeah. But the right wing in general didn't disappoint on the whole affordable care issue.
Nice.
Michelle Fields was on Hannity, and she had something really interesting to say about what Democrats do to women.
Democrats love to run away from numbers and facts, which is why they created this ridiculous war on women with contraception. And what they did was they basically reduced the American woman to a sexual being whose sole concern is birth control and cheap abortions.
Good old Fox.
Wow.
Never disappoint.
Woo! That's a winner. Okay, that's the craziest one all day. There can't be a better one than that. The show is over. Good night, everyone.
That was Michelle Fields. I actually had no idea who this woman was by looking at her. She wasn't even
Great chocolate chip cookies, but wow.
Yeah, she wasn't even like the insert Fox babe here typical woman. I had no idea who she was.
Well, you had to find someone extra crispy crazy for
to
that
say
one.
something like that. Yeah, that's a whole big bucket of crazy.
Well, what shocks me is that they would put someone on television. Okay, what ism is it that allowed craziness access to the mainstream?
What ism is it?
Yeah, Foxism, I guess.
Foxism.
There
I like
is.
that. It's a
Foxism is
that
what,
is undeniable truth number 24, written by Shano.
Foxism is what allows undeniable crazies access to the mainstream.
I love it.
There we go.
I absolutely love it. And Gretchen Carlson didn't let us down as well. And she's always a winner. Just remember, everybody, that the day today that women gained access to free cancer screening is the day religious freedom died.
Despite scores of protests from people fighting for their religious freedom, President Obama's controversial contraception mandate goes into effect today. It forces all insurance companies to cover contraceptive services, but many religious organizations, including the Catholic Church, say that forces them to go against their religious beliefs. Republican Congressman Jeff Fortenberry planning to mark the day by holding an event called The Day Religious Freedom Died.
Dun, dun,
wow.
Dun. And
notice the word forced used twice in there?
Yeah, notice the reading like it's an actual news report, like she's reading something of actual merit and fact. This just in, I am completely batshit crazy. That's what I heard, essentially, from that report.
Okay.
Did you hear anything else?
No, but I love the...
Yeah. This coming in. This coming in.
You can hear the ticker tape in the background.
Right off the wire.
Yeah, right off the talking points from My Heritage Foundation.
In fact, it still has the facts cover on it.
Yeah. This in for the GOP.
The day religious freedom died. Give me a break.
Oh, I wanted... Bye,
Miss American Pie. Yeah, I shouldn't say.
This will be the day religion died.
Well, and in other ridiculous Fox news... Can I get some of that news music? We don't have any news music, do we? That would be
Somewhere
awesome.
I do. I have it.
Yeah, we'll have to get that in the
It's going to be a process over a couple of weeks getting all the sound effects into this computer.
Yeah.
So.
But John Bolton.
Oh, that's it. That's crazy enough right there.
Yeah, John Bolton on Fox. This is really just an intro clip because I really, really love it when some BS that the Republicans have touted for so long just comes back and smacks them in the face. And we're going to get to that clip, but we have to get to this one first. John Bolton on Fox News Channel blaming Obama for stating Israel is the root of the problem in the Middle East.
Well, I think it's been a very successful trip. I think the issue about the Olympics in London was a veritable tempest in a teacup. And I think his meetings and speech in Israel demonstrated the stark contrast between the Romney view of Israel's role as an important American ally and the Obama administration view, which is Israel is a large source of the problems in the Middle East. And I think he accomplished that very clearly.
Obama views Israel as the source of the problem in the Middle East. Did I miss the wire on that?
Well, it's baloney. But remember who John Bolton is. He is an arch neocon. Neocons stand for and they use the conservative religious right as the voting force behind this, and the co-conspirators in this crazy idea that the second coming is going to come by creating a war in the Middle East.
But the new temple has to be built on the mound.
So therefore, Israel is their means by which to get to this religious craziness.
Right.
So the neocons plus the Hagis of the world are together, Jews for Jesus, to get them all, the whole thing. So you have to have the bad guy who's against Israel to bring up that fervor. Obama has been wonderful to Israel.
Well,
but the fact he's been even-handed in the process, but heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid. Basically, they're just pissed that he doesn't want to blow up Iran.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well,
way to reduce it to its common denominator there. I love
because
that.
That's the truth of the matter.
It absolutely is.
Well, Israel's defense minister, how do you pronounce his name?
Ehud Barak.
Ehud Barak. Basically, he had different thoughts on the matter.
He knows something about Israel.
Yeah, he has a thing or two to say about it.
This administration have done more in diplomacy, more in sanctions than previous administrations, probably for good reasons, and they did a lot in terms of operational deployment in the Gulf area and in operational preparation.
This administration would be President Barack Obama.
Yes. Tell me you wouldn't love to prank call John Bolton and play that over and over and over again on his answering machine.
Well, because right now, the way the right and the neocons want to portray, they want to make sure that Netanyahu is the embodiment of the entire opinion of everyone living in Israel. And that's just simply not the case.
It's not the case in any country.
Not the case here that Barack Obama embodies every one of our opinions or anyone's opinions.
Right.
They have their own. Now, granted, he is the Grand Poobah, but there are a lot of people in Israel that don't hold the same beliefs.
Anybody who thinks that all of Israel believes like he does just because that's who we see, as their representative, has to remember that Romney was just standing in other countries, basically representing our nation. Is that the image you'd like to portray?
No. I'd rather send the Three Stooges.
Exactly. They may be better received. Oh,
more articulate,
wow.
That's for sure.
Yeah, well, it just gets better and better. Of course, we are in the middle of the Media Matters mashup. Always a fun segment.
Like them. We get a lot of complaints.
Yeah,
we do get a lot of complaints.
I know we do, but they all go to you, so I don't have to worry about it.
It's the low. But you know what? We really do you have to battle back against it and mock them for what they are.
Well, and you have to thank people like the folks at Media Matters who sit there and watch and watch and watch to make sure this type of hypocrisy is actually exposed
and held accountable. It's media plus responsibility.
The reason they get away with continuing the lies that they say and this nonsense that they have going on at Fox is because they damn well know that their listeners will never tune into another news network and actually hear the actual facts of the argument.
Right. But I think it's equally important that we not be hypocritical and tune into them and see what they're saying.
As we do.
And then expose exactly what they're saying and figure out a way to combat it.
Right.
Now, one way is to mock them. Another way is to put the actual facts out there, like the clip you just had there with Avery
Right.
Barak. I like that.
Well, and
let's mock them some more.
I think we should. Here's one we can mock that is always a little bit fun, and it's not the first time we've heard this. Rush Limbaugh, again, admits that he's the de facto leader of the Republican Party.
I am, folks. He's right. I am the titular head of the Republican Party.
Now, I cut the clip there because the comment he made after that was not something we should ever subject our listeners to.
Oh, see, that's just not nice.
Oh, it was so bad. It included the remarks about breastfeeding. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And, yeah. Not an image anybody needs in their head.
So he picked the word titular on purpose?
Yes.
Of course he did.
Yeah. And, being that he does have moobs, as they're called, it was not an image I needed in my head, nor that I would subject anybody else to. I did want to read a quick comment in the chat room just because it was hilarious.
Sure.
Adam in the chat says, Rush Limbaugh calling someone else unattractive is like Sarah Palin calling someone else stupid.
Love it.
Absolutely love it. Good stuff. And a couple more we have. Bernie Goldberg.
Oh, no.
Never one to disappoint.
Now for people who don't know who Bernie Goldberg is,
yeah,
he's somebody who's really, really angry at the world because he got fired from CBS. Essentially, that is his entire job, is to bitch about the media because he lost his job at CBS. Therefore, they're a bunch of all liberal loons who,
Well, yeah, he pretty much seems arrogant and
his only friend in the world is Bill O'Reilly.
Who he was talking to.
That's the only place
that
he
does
talks.
not surprise you, I'm sure. But coming into an election, I thought this one was important to point out because this is the Republican mentality. He's just actually ballsy enough to say it on air. But according to Bernie Goldberg, if you're uneducated, don't vote.
I don't want to go back to the hateful days. I
of
wouldn't
means
ask
testing?
you to recite the Constitution in Greek or anything. But if you don't know how many states there are, if you don't know what the capital of the United States is, if you don't know, I don't know.
It'll be easy.
Yeah. If you don't know that much, you know what? Do everybody a favor. Stay home. Don't vote.
You know what's great about this clip? Does he realize which party this would affect the most?
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I've got a pretty strong gut feeling that there's a lot of members, say, of the Republican Party that are the same people that tout, Obama's a Muslim and he's trying to take my guns and, he wasn't born in this country, that probably, say, couldn't name the 3 branches of government.
But this opens up a lot of wounds in terms of civil rights.
Means testing, absolutely.
Civil rights in terms of literacy testing
Right.
or owning property
Right.
or all those types of things, polls, taxes, things like that. So for him to go off and start essentially what would be a literacy test, I think is really shameful. And on top of it, Republicans are against, come on, the old Wayrick, clip that, we hear on some other
why
radio
I pulled
shows
this
up.
one.
The
goo-goo syndrome.
That, I do have it, so I'm sure somewhere in this computer. I don't know why. But Republicans, they have admitted it. And for a very long time, they try to shy away from it. If you take up any of the mainstream Republicans right now, no. We just want only Americans to vote, or only people who should vote. But they really want it. The less people that vote, they know it's better off for them.
Exactly.
The more people that vote, we know it's better off for Democrats.
That's exactly
Period.
why I
End of
pulled this clip. But I just thought it was interesting.
Steve Forbes, not a couple years ago, said that the only people should be able to vote are people who have what he called skin in the game. In other words, people who have money.
Yeah. Who basically, he went as far as saying that people who have property.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go way back. Incredible stuff.
People who own property. Think how many people would be disenfranchised and not allowed to have a voice in their own democracy if it was
Especially
based
now,
on property.
Given what the median net worth of this country is.
Right. It's an important point, but, thanks to Media Matters, clips like that are exposed, and we get to mock them a little bit for just being general jerks.
It is kind of easy, though.
Yeah.
I would say this is the easiest segment to do.
It's a little fun for me.
It is fun. And you know what? Given that we're in D.C. now, we do spend a little more time watching Fox News. You do notice.
We spend a lot of time watching news, but yes, we have to do our opposition research. So.
And I know that you tend to get a little angry about it at times.
I've gotten better.
You have gotten better.
Yes.
And you suffered through all these.
Yes,
I applaud you. I applaud you wholeheartedly for this.
Great, thank you. Well, we're going to go ahead and run to a quick break, and want to make sure you stick around and listen to David Shuster and hear all about two of his great new articles and everything going on at Take Action News. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back here on Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shane and David Shuster.
Hey, it's Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and this is Talking Left.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from BradBlog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of BradBlog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK, and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org. You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Alan Grayson, you're the best. We love you. We need you back in Congress, and I'm here to do whatever I can to make that happen in my own little way.
Thanks. I enjoyed the time with you personally. I wish that the listeners could get to know you the way that I know you and understand that you're the same person off the air as you are on the air. It's not some kind of shtick. You really do care greatly about all the important things in life, and you understand that sometimes people just need a helping hand.
Yeah.
And that the world, as John Kennedy said, doesn't start out there. You have to make it that way.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at RadioOrNot.com.
Are you living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiosstations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiosstations.com. Be sure to like Left Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiosstations.com. United we stand. Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than Ken.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
The most important online radio station.
It's easier than ever to listen to SoFlo. On the air and everywhere. On any computer, any mobile device, iPhone, iTouch, and anywhere you are, just hit SoFloRadio.com. Tell your friends about South Florida's radio network, SoFloRadio.com.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott. Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or Not. And filterfreeradio.com.
People don't think critically anymore. Just to examine or critique the system, the culture, political assumptions, things that they see on TV. I mean, whatever happened to the saying, oh, don't believe everything you see or hear?
Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. The More Me Show with DJ Downtown and Eddie Herradura.
live from our nation's capital, every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, with hilariously scathing inches from the Beltway analysis of this week's political and social developments. The More Me Show at ProgressiveBlendRadio.com and RadioOrNot.com.
Hey, Columbus, we've got the cure for what makes you K-sick.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Stephanie Miller and her sexy liberal crew are coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th.
What a fun, sexy time for you.
Join comedic geniuses Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang.
Fox News is like a mecca for people who hate Mecca.
And talk radio goddess Stephanie Miller.
It's the most action I've had in I don't know how long.
As they help Columbus rediscover its funny bone.
Who's laughing now, huh? I'll tell you who's laughing now. We are!
Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com, at the Kappa Ticket Office, or by calling 800-745-3000. This is truly the show that will put the ooh back in Ohio. That's the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Show, coming to the Capitol Theater on August 18th. Buckeye State, you're going to love our nuts.
You're going to love my nuts.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or not?
Radio or not?
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.
Yes, you are. Welcome back to Talking Left. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. We have a great in-studio guest that I am so very proud to welcome, David Shuster of Take Action News. You can follow him on Twitter at David Shuster, and, of course, TakeActionNews.com. And, of course, follow We Act Radio and Take Action News, too. David, thank you so much for joining
Danielle,
us.
it is great to be here. I love this studio you guys are in. This is amazing.
As I said a minute ago, it's a big step up from our second bedroom in our old house.
All right, whatever you guys are doing both places is working for you. So.
Of course, I was mentioning Take Action News, where you've been kind enough to welcome me. Great show this last week. You guys did an awesome job. And what do you have coming up this Saturday?
Well, I have not yet looked at the SOT sheet that you sent, but I have a feeling we're going to do a lot of stuff on the Romney tax plan because of the independent report that just came out that said that 95% of Americans would pay more taxes under his tax plan. Romney's economic advisor said, oh, but that's because the media is biased. They're not taking into account the astounding growth we're going to have.
Damn liberal media.
Excuse me. So I think we're going to do that. There's a couple things happening on the Hill as far as budgets and debate over sequestration and the military cuts. So there's plenty, and then there's also a lot of speculation now about who Mitt Romney's going to pick as his running mate. And I seem to hear a little bit of a roar now, sort of a buzz about Paul Ryan.
Yeah, it seems like he's moved up in that race. Everybody kind of laughed off that chance to begin with, or they were talking about, Portman or Pawlenty being more likely choices. But it seems like Ryan is getting a lot more cred.
I think if you're a Democrat, you should be high-fiving your neighbors if Romney's seriously considering Paul Ryan, because you look at the special elections this year, Arizona and New York, and you have Democratic candidates in some pretty tough districts who ran very hard on the idea of protecting Medicare from the type of cuts that Paul Ryan would impose. And those candidates did really well. And that's the Republican friends say, just because of that, there's no way that Romney wants the Ryan plan hung around his neck. Well, maybe he does.
Maybe he does. It's very interesting that you bring that up. I don't think most people are aware that you also write great articles. I found one over at current.com and another one over at HuffPost. So you're all over the place. Huffington Post, of course.
Everybody likes it when a TV guy can actually put sentences together.
And put them together quite well. I was reading an article you posted just yesterday, July 31st, over on current.com called, "Yes, Protecting Our Social Safety Net is a Winning Issue." And you have a great quote right near the bottom of it. I don't want to give away the spoiler alert, but I want everybody to be intrigued enough to go over and check it out right now. They should run toward the programs and vow to protect them. It's an approach that will win in November and strengthen our society. Very well said, sir.
Well, I've been sort of disillusioned by a lot of Democrats this year who have run away from Social Security. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about what it does or the great history. They simply want to agree with Republicans that, we need to do something to cut back on our, social programs, as if you needed to cut back, when the fact of the matter is Social Security, the more we learn about it, the more we look at sort of the productivity of American worker, they're now extending the life date of the program. So now it's even going to be longer before it starts paying out more than it takes in. And by the way, there's this sort of theory among Republicans that, Social Security is going to go broke. No. Even if we did absolutely nothing to the program, something like 79% of all benefits would be paid out starting in 2038. So I've been shocked at the number of Democrats who have decided that, we need to have some grand bargain with Republicans in the name of fiscal responsibility. And I keep thinking, well, what about the responsibility to all of us who've been paying into Social Security, and the least among us? So what was so surprising to me this week is that Jan Schakowsky, who's a pretty leading Democrat in the House Democratic Caucus, said that she is going to encourage all Democrats to run hard on protecting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, that these are winning issues. And she pointed to some of these special elections, and it's remarkably smart politics on the Democratic side.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I actually, when I was talking about the women's health issues that went into effect today, I also was saying that these need to be an ad, that these need to be a Democratic talking point, personalize it and say, this woman was able to detect early enough treatable breast cancer because of actions by the Democrats, that this woman's Social Security wasn't cut off because of the Democrats. Personalize this issue and juxtapose it with clips of Republicans saying how they want to end these programs. The ad writes itself.
Right, and you're talking about programs that really have done a lot of great work. I mean, even, say, the Affordable Care Act, there were certain things that strengthened Medicare in the Affordable Care Act. So if people thought, well, Medicare needs to be strengthened, well, the Affordable Care Act did that. And, by the way, now under the Affordable Care Act, women can't be charged more for their premiums, their preventive services, all the sort of things which will then prevent costs from skyrocketing in the long run. So it's just, Democrats pass these things and they take responsibility of, great legislation for a little while, and then it seems like they drop it like a hot potato, and I don't get it.
Exactly. Just like you're saying here on the social safety net. They've been the ones fighting the good fight and trying to protect people, trying to protect people's benefits, and then they don't give themselves that pat on the back that Republicans do for doing nothing.
Yeah, and when you look back, I mean, I was astounded in the course of putting this piece together. If you look back to when Medicare started some 47 years ago, that only 1 out of 2 sort of elderly in our population actually had health insurance.
Yeah.
And those that did, they were paying, 3 times for the same health services that other people did. So it was just incredible. Our society did not care about older people 47 years ago. Medicare changed that. So now that we're protecting older people, if you get sick, if you get old, that doesn't mean that you have to go bankrupt. And that's thanks to Medicare. And it seems to me, and I think, a lot of Democrats are starting to catch fire on this, that by protecting Medicare, by defending it, by defending Social Security, that's a winning political issue. So even if they don't want to get into the policy, if they simply want to hold on to their jobs, they should be defending these programs.
Absolutely. It's, it's a winning issue. To me, it seems like a no-brainer, but yet it doesn't get in the press. I mean, you had these huge changes become effective for women today, and the only person I saw reporting on it was Rachel Maddow.
Right.
The only person, besides Fox, which, of course, it was, the end of the world.
Right. Yeah, I think, the media, I have some pretty choice opinions about a lot of our colleagues in the media, and we could spend an entire, week on that.
But we won't.
But thankfully, there are programs like this one, like Rachel's and others that are, that are staying on top of this.
Yeah, it's important. I wanted to go a little back in the David Shuster archives there.
Oh, no.
And not that far back, just to the beginning of the month. But you've written several pieces between then and now.
I'm sorry, was that calling the Clinton? Oh, no.
Yeah, not that far back. No worries. You're safe here. But you also put up an article at the beginning of the month on Huffington Post called "The Newseum Shame."
Yeah.
And as somebody who is, trying to be a good journalist and you who are an outstanding journalist, I thought this was a great topic. It was just so surprising. Why don't you explain to the audience a little bit about the article?
I've covered a couple presidential campaigns, and I think even as recently as 10 years ago, if a candidate dared go into some sort of public space, a museum, or some something that sort of represents press freedom in the way the museum does, there was an expectation that everything that candidate did would be on the record. And if any candidate tried to sort of keep it off the record, reporters would go crazy. And they had the news organizations supporting them saying, well, we're not going to cover that candidate, or we're not going to allow you to. Well, what happened is twice now this year, first with President Obama and then with Mitt Romney, the museum rented out its space to a lobbying organization known as the Business Roundtable. And the Business Roundtable essentially represents CEOs of the wealthiest 200 corporations in America. I mean, you're talking about the elite of the elite of the elite.
So Romney's friends.
Yeah, Romney's friends. And so they, the president gave a speech. The reporters were allowed to listen to the speech. As soon as the president started taking questions from the CEOs, the reporters were shoved out of the room, saying, this is all, you can't listen to this.
And then the same thing at Romney's event.
Exact same thing with Romney. And, reporters complained a little bit, but for the most part, there was sort of a ho-hum. And to me, I guess I'm not surprised now that, the corporate media is no longer sort of complaining about this stuff. But what just shocked me is this happened in the museum. And
exactly.
And even though it's a space and they're entitled to rent out to who they want, it struck me as crazy that there's like a 90-foot sort of homage to the First Amendment about freedom of the press. And in that very same building, in the shadow of this, First Amendment, they would say, reporters, you can't be here. You can't cover how a presidential candidate answers questions or what sort of give and take they have with top corporate CEOs.
Well, and yet the only place I've heard this reported is by you.
Well, there were a couple of reports that day, a couple of tweets, and I think Politico had a small piece, and then that was the end of the story. And I thought, you know what? No, we need to make this sort of a bigger story, and we need to say that if the museum is going to represent the interests of reporters, they need to change their rental policy and say that anybody who rents space from the museum, if you are a presidential candidate, then reporters are allowed in from start to finish, whether it's a speech, whether it's a fundraiser, whether you're part of a carnival in a dunking tank. Reporters have to be there. If an organization like the Business Roundtable wants to do things in private, I guarantee there are 150 other places in Washington they can go and do that. But the museum, of all places, should say, we are about transparency, because that is what has made our freedom of the press so strong in this country. And when the museum, of all places, which represents the networks and the major news organizations, when they are now endorsing a policy that anybody who rents out space can decide their own rules, that's crazy.
It's not just their own rules, because so many people would say, but it's a private event. It's their own rules for the press.
Right.
You know what I mean? It goes a step beyond that. Yeah, if you don't want to have, if you want to serve vegetarian dishes, or you want your waiters to wear a certain color certain colored clothing, I don't care. That has no impact on the matter at hand. But to say that press isn't allowed there is absurd in that building.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of people say, well, wait a second, the museum was acting legally. Well, of course they were. There's no law that, says they must allow the press. But if they're a museum dedicated to honoring the press and they're representing all of us, it should be part of their own bylaws. It should be known to any organization that wants to consider renting that beautiful space. If you're going to host either the president or a presidential candidate, the media is allowed in. It's the ethical thing to do. And when the media is not following those sorts of ethics, we're in even more trouble than we know.
Yeah, to quote you back to you, I just thought that this was a really important quote. The museum is supposed to be a paragon of journalistic openness and integrity, not a shallow enabler of corporate America. The glorious building should honor the noble calling of a free press, not treat the First Amendment as a mere wall decoration. Again, well said.
Thank you. I occasionally, when we have time to sort of think before we write or speak, it can come out to pretty nice. But look, I think the bottom line, and there are people who will come up with even more sort of eloquent ways to put it, is that, we are so honored in this country to have a free press and to have had a free press for so long. And if we're going to protect it, the media, the reporters who are part of this, we have to live up to our own certain ethical guidelines and expectations. And that starts with transparency. And if all of a sudden in our own sort of building, something that represents us. Now we're allowing corporate America to say, you reporters, you can't cover President Obama or Mitt Romney. Then, I just think, the press is just is heading down a really, really awfully slope to a horrible place. And that's not part of a media that I want to be part of.
Well, can I ask something?
Yeah.
Because this is part of a bigger, I understand the irony of it being in the museum, but this has been a consistent problem for a very long time. In that the candidates are starting to control the press more and more, and they do it with access. If you don't treat them well, you're not going to be able to cover them. And it happened even in when Romney went overseas. We had Greta Van Susteren saying they were like caged animals at a zoo, the press. What is the purpose of them?
Yeah.
And how do you get around that?
Well, and that's, I'm not sure how you get around it, except, we saw a little bit of pushback in the last stop where Romney's press corps started screaming questions at him as he was walking in Poland to his limousine from sort of a unknown soldier, missing soldier, whatnot, remembrance. And they one at a time, they sort of peppered Romney with questions, and you clearly, it seemed like the reporters were in cahoots because you could hear each of the individual questions, and I think they probably worked that out in advance. But then Romney's press handler went crazy and told reporters to kiss his, derriere.
Yes.
And again, the only questions that reporters had all of, I think 3 questions in London was all they had of Mitt Romney, and that was it. When he went to England and Israel and Poland, and the reporter's job is not just to go and sort of be a stenographer. If you want press to be there telling your story, you at least have to and you have to involve the press in some fashion. You have to mix it up with them. And if Mitt Romney's not capable or afraid of taking questions from the press, well, Vladimir Putin is going to be a lot tougher than anybody from the New York Times or Washington Post. I promise you.
Absolutely. And this, this museum incident, as well as everything you're mentioning, it keeps bringing me back to the same thought I had about Romney not releasing his taxes. What is it that is so damning that they don't want to talk to the press? Whatever their response is, or their fear of maybe accidentally telling the truth has to be worse than how bad it looks by not answering the press. The outcome has got to be worse than how it looks.
I think Danielle, you've got the right sort of equation and analysis here, and I think part of it is the Romney campaign, maybe because of the way the media has been drifting and corporate media and the reporters being more and more docile in certain ways. Maybe they figured this was the election when somebody could finally run for president without having to turn over your tax returns or answer serious questions about policies or really talk specifics to the media. And they figured they can just get away, that they're going to make this all about a referendum on President Obama, and therefore Romney doesn't need to do anything. He doesn't need to engage the press with anything. And, if they are right on that, I just, find that this will be a transformational election in a shockingly awful way for all of us. The idea that somebody can run for president, Mitt Romney would not be able to be confirmed by the Senate for a cabinet position based on the few documents that he's turned over. And yet he's asking the American people in the biggest job interview that we have in our country, he's saying, oh, just trust me.
Right.
And reporters, don't ask me those questions. Just trust me. Well, maybe I trust you, but I want to see the 10 years of tax returns where maybe you didn't pay anything.
Yeah, and even if you're not going to release them, I would like you to answer a few questions. Because he's been specifically asked, are there any years you paid less than, the 11.4%? And he hems and haws and avoids to answer the question. Shane, I know you're away from the mic, but Shane makes this point over and over and over again, stating, if it's a yes or no question, that some reporter out there should just hold him to it.
Right. And ask him 5 times, is there any year in the last 10 years where you paid 0 in federal income taxes? Yes or no? And he'll say, I don't know that. Mr. Romney, you would know if you paid 0% that year. Is there any year in which you paid 0% effective federal income tax? And ask it 5 times. I don't care if you don't get to interview him again. Chances are you'll only get one shot anyways.
There was a time when I was covering the McCain campaign, and then we switched off, and the guy who was covering George W. Bush in 2000 and we switched off, and George W. Bush was not answering a certain question. So all the reporters got together and said, we're all going to ask the exact same question over and over.
That's awesome.
Well, it's time for reporters to do that again with Mitt Romney. And, the thing is, if Romney was a talented politician, he could turn this to his favor. He could say, you know what? Yeah, the market lost a ton of money in 2008. All of us who had a lot of money in the stock market, a lot of us paid 0% because of all of our losses. And you know what I'm going to do? As president, I'm going to change that because, yes, I took advantage of tax policies that really aren't fair. And while I was, playing by the rules, I did everything legally. I see now how that's not good for our country, for people as wealthy as me, even if you lose a lot of money in the stock market, to therefore pay absolutely nothing. So because I know these loopholes better than anybody else, I'm the one who can change them. If he took that approach, then this issue is off the table and it doesn't hurt him. The problem is, I don't think Romney has that sort of political courage. I don't think he wants to change the taxes.
Exactly. He doesn't want to, because then all of his support would just dry up like gone.
Right.
I say David Shuster for president first.
Amen to that. I second that motion.
Too much in my background, I think. And I'm not going to release my tax returns.
Yeah. Well, all this comment about the press and the museum, before we move on, I just want to remind everybody or mention that because of the museum, you started a petition at change.org, and it's change.org/newseum, NEWSEUM. Everybody needs to go and sign David's petition and get the museum to stop holding these type of events and have some integrity. So
yeah, I had some interaction with folks at the museum a couple of weeks ago. Just to I talked to people in the press office. They were very nice. They're paying very close attention to this. They don't like it, but they were very polite and said, "Look, the person who's in charge of the museum, the chairman, has said to us, we are not going to change our policy. Then any organization that wants to rent space from us, they get to determine whether or not there's press access or not." So, I got the sense that the people in the press office over at the museum handling their PR, they don't like the policy, but there's this chairman in charge of the organization. He's standing firm. So we continue. We continue to hammer them and say this is outrageous. And at a certain point, hopefully enough people get on board, and maybe there's an incredible amount of pressure so that the board of directors at the museum decides to make some changes.
It's so interesting how people get appointed to positions like that stand for nothing, none of the values that an organization represents. Like we saw that with the Susan G. Komen Foundation. Yeah. We see it so often where, how do these people get in these positions?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Brownie.
Doing a heck of a job, Brownie.
Yeah.
You've never really covered any disaster preparedness in your life, and all those, the horse training that you did for those Arabian horses, that doesn't really transfer as far as preparing for a hurricane, but it's okay.
Yeah, you'd think he'd been better at least cleaning up the press because he'd probably shoveled a lot of stuff.
That's good. I think it's the line of the night.
Well, speaking of funny stuff and press, I just thought it was funny and wanted to share your thoughts on Greta Van Susteren not getting access to Governor Romney and saying she posted on her blog. I thought this was a comment, and I searched for the audio, but unfortunately it was written on her blog. Her quote is, "There's been no press access to Governor Romney since we landed in Portland. We, parenthetically press, are in a holding pattern. Parenthetically, I can't help but feel a bit like the press is a modified petting zoo since we are trapped in this bus while Polish citizens take pictures of us." Under the headline, "Governor Romney won't like this," we saw a big sign in the crowd for Representative Ron Paul.
It's interesting because reporters, high-profile anchors like Greta over at Fox and others, they'll go on these trips because there's the expectation that they get, in addition to one-on-one interviews, that Romney will do a series of news conferences and you get a feel for the campaign. Romney started off doing these, interviews with Brian Williams and others, and he did such a horrible job. He got himself in trouble. It was the first interview with Brian Williams when he criticized the London Olympics and had conservatives back here saying, "You moron, all you have to do is stand there and look diplomatic, and the pictures help you with this story." So then the Romney campaign just says, okay, no more interviews because, Romney's going to make mistakes. And then all these high-profile reporters who are along for the ride hoping to sort of, get their one-on-one interviews, follow the press conferences. I mean, I think President Obama had 4 press conferences in 2008 when he made the trip. But, all of a sudden, you're stuck. You're stuck in a press plane or a charter or a bus. You're at some pretty interesting places, but you have to sort of go where the candidate is because of the little chance that maybe he'll open his mouth. And after a week of that, then you come back with nothing except, having spent $85,000 for having a ticket on all these flights and hotels and whatnot, and you got nothing to show for it.
Awesome. And talk.
Will the press turn against him? I mean, if Greta Van Susteren is saying this, will the press as a whole turn against him, and then will he go Sarah Palin essentially and say no more? That's it. Nothing anywhere.
That gets to something that I've been hearing from some of my colleagues who are covering Mitt Romney, who have been doing it for months. That there is a toxic relationship, a poisonous relationship between Mitt Romney and the press corps covering him. to the point that some of the reporters who have covered other campaigns said that they have never seen a relationship as bad between a presidential candidate who's going to get the nominee and the press corps. That they have never seen anything like this. And there have been several presidential candidates who hated the press, but who have realized that as part of their effort to get elected, they have to hold their nose and make nice with the press and bring them brownies or donuts or pretend to like them or whatever it is. If you can't schmooze the press, then you're really pathetic as a politician because, I mean, you know, I think the press is easy to charm. And even if Mitt Romney hates their guts, if he's not willing to make that effort to get elected, then I think, you know, he really wants this handed to him on a silver platter.
Yeah, outside of how he looks in a suit, this guy's making McCain look like a good candidate.
Yeah, I mean, John McCain used to sit in the back of his bus, and I remember I'd get a headache because McCain would talk for 10 hours. Everything was on the record. You had to, like, hold your microphone out there for, like, hours at a time because in case he said something, you weren't paying attention, suddenly it's news, and you go back. I mean, it was the most exhausting story I've ever covered. And we got 3 square meals and hotels each night, and I was wiped after 2 months of that. It's crazy.
Oh, well, David, of course, I want to tell everybody to check out Take Action News. And where else do you post? I found Current. I found Huffington Post. Is it just...
So there's stuff that goes up on Current about, usually about every week. There's something that goes up on the website. There's stuff on takeactionnews.com that is posted, all of our clips. And then a couple other places as well. I just started doing the blogging thing with Huffington Post a couple of months ago. And it's an interesting exercise. A part of me is a little bit not sure what to make of it because you're writing for free. I mean, sort of you get to post on Huffington Post, which everybody reads, but you don't get anything other than the exposure. And there's something about that that's a little bit unseemly to me. So I still haven't quite figured out.
Interesting business model. I wish I could figure out how to do it.
You know, I wish that. You know, I suppose that's the journalism model is that, you know, everybody does this because we love it and we work for nothing and we all live on food stamps.
Pretty much.
But I'm not sure that really helps our business.
But it is definitely a labor of love. You have to love it. Very few probably get ridiculously rich in media.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, I think where I sort of come down on the whole idea, journalists should be paid. Yes, we should. But it's something like the Huffington Post. If you can sort of be like that pebble that gets thrown in the water because of the post in the Huffington Post, and then it sets off ripples, and it causes other things to change, and maybe people are paying more attention. Maybe Democrats are finding their backbone on Social Security because they heard that Jan Schakowsky has found hers, or maybe there are people who are forcing the museum to actually allow reporters to cover presidential candidates start to finish. If any of these posts or any of these stories on Huffington Post or petitions or anything have started any of that in that direction, then it's worth it.
I agree. I completely agree. We may not have a huge audience, but I say if I can change one person's mind or wake one person up, my job is done.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us. Of
course, Danielle, it's always a pleasure. And by the way, folks, Danielle is very modest. She and Shane both have been doing some really great work at We Act Radio, and Danielle in particular for all the stuff that you're doing every Saturday with running the board on our show and all the great music bumps and stuff you're bringing to the show. It's great.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be there. It's lots of fun. So check out Take Action News, everybody. Follow David Shuster on Twitter. Follow Take Action News. And go over to Current, Huffington Post, and, subscribe to those feeds as well. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on Radio or Not, including Filter Free Radio, Turn Up the Night, Nurse Talk, More Me Show, and, of course, Nicole Sandler. Remember to check out Kenny Pick on Sunday on WVKO, the rebroadcast, 1580 a.m. in Columbus. And thanks to all our stations, SoFlo Radio, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and thanks to those who subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or TalkingLeft.com. Thanks to our great guests, Susie Samson, Nicole, Belle, and David Shuster. And we'll be back next week. And as always, thanks to you, the listeners. You're the reason we do what we do, and we'll be back with you next week. This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shane. Have a great Wednesday night.
See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Oh, I gotta say, that was fantastic.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shane.